I would like to begin this episode by thanking some nice people. Arthur Ramsey, Jim McKeown, Evan Caswell, Richard Taylor, and Eric Nagurney. All of these people went to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked in a couple of bucks, and that helps us out a great deal. If you have not done that, consider doing it. Thank you.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about The Seventh Guest and also The 11th Hour. The Seventh Guest, we're going to start out with that. That is an adventure game developed by Trilobite Studios and published by Virgin Interactive Entertainment for the PC in 1993.
Mm-hmm. And this is going to be like a 1.5. Kind of off because I didn't get too far in the 11th hour for multiple reasons. Mm-hmm. But wanted to, I kind of just volunteered us to do the 11th hour, and I apologize to you, Cole. And I've always been curious about it, and I was like, oh, it's, the structure of it sounds neat. And, I know it's real wild. It's got like phantasmagoria appeal to it. And those things are kind of true.
Kinda.
But yeah, there's some real problems. We're going to talk about problems. If you like problems,
fundamental problems. I think that it makes sense to talk about them kind of in the same breath because it is a very stark, I think, demonstration of why this fad was a fad.
Well, yeah, I was like all of this entire thing, all of Trilobite is an example of a lot of cautionary tale,
right? Kind
of stuff. Like, not only is The Seventh Guest really interesting for, again, like kind of a fad, and the way I was talking about in the Slack, and this is getting ahead, but who gives a shit? We don't got bosses. But like somebody, it was like everything that The Seventh Guest reviewed for really well at the time, it would review poorly for now.
Absolutely.
Like it is this weird opposite version, this thing that made it remarkable and genuinely important.
Right.
And a landmark game, none of which make it a good game in 2019.
Yeah, this is aged like milk.
It's amazing. Like, and then the 11th hour is like a fast follow, like Doom clone kind of thing. Like, started development before this was out. Like, they did not twiddle their thumbs, and it had already passed. Mm-hmm. Like, you can see the exact window that they missed. Like, it is weirdly, from like a game history perspective, like, this is so important and interesting. Like, another thing I was thinking about is how much more fun it is to research this stuff than it is to play it.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it's really interesting. It's as stuff.
I mean,
historically.
Again, like cutting ahead to generalities, but I want to lay this out as a thesis, especially as we talk about the generalities. Like the anti-pattern is the anti-pattern in this. What not to follow is the idea that, hey, maybe if the entire reason for making a game is like, oh, the technology exists, maybe it's not worth doing that. Maybe you need a better reason. Because I think everything is so technology forward in this.
For sure. But if you read interviews with these people and stuff, and you like trying to get their perspective, I think these are true believers.
Yeah.
I don't think that they were doing something that was that shallow.
Right.
And that ends up also giving it a little bit of a appeal of like Ed Wood appeal. To some of this, like,
especially when you watch like the documentaries about this. But I'm thinking like, just you look at how much effort went into. Basically, I think that they reversed the effort that should have gone into things, where so much is done on the visuals. Very little is done on the acting and the story, and then just an infinitesimal amount of effort put into the play. Like for the puzzles, they literally just took these puzzles out of like a 19th century game.
It's Games Magazine.
Yeah.
It's just Games Magazine. Like this is all all like rich stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna get this. This is all really like super interesting to us. But real quick before we get too far, because we just kind of naturally launched into it, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to do a quick shout out because this month, this
Mm-hmm.
puzzle month was chosen, and this specific pick was chosen by Doug Leaf.
Yes.
You may remember Doug from the Arkham City episode, where he was a delightful guest.
Yes.
And I want to put the blanket disclaimer of when somebody chooses something that we're going to trash, that we still love Doug.
Yes.
I kind of like the Seventh Guest.
I kind of do too.
A little bit.
It is very, very charming.
Yeah, there's a lot of charm. There's a lot of goofy charm to it. Some of the puzzles are genuinely good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think that if you're somebody who doesn't totally turn your nose up at a better version of this, which I consider to be like Professor Layton games, right?
Right.
Like the structure of this is not that different than Professor Layton.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't totally turn your nose up at Professor Layton, and I love those games, it is hard to totally turn your nose up at this.
Right.
It's much worse. The puzzles are worse. They're excessive. They're less imaginative. But it's still like, hey man, if you want me to put 8 queens on a chessboard and have none of them be able to attack each other, like I can chew on that. Like I can get down for that. And then they just toss all of that stuff into the fucking toilet with the sequel. They're just like, let's just chew this, digest it, take a big old dump, and then just throw the toilet away rather than flushing it.
Right.
You know, put the toilet into a bigger toilet that is only there to flush toilets.
Yep.
Into God's toilet.
It's got a joke at the bottom.
Now.
It's just for toilets. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting. I've been looking forward to talking about it for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's go and get into it in an order, and then we can say all of the like passionate, ranty things we want to say about how weird this is.
Yeah.
So in 2019.
Yeah. So game opens up with relatively little preamble, at least in terms of the actual play. You kind of wake up as this unnamed amnesiac who it kind of is like in the manual is described as an entity.
What you actually are is fucking ridiculous.
Yes.
Like once I actually found, like, this is one of the more incoherently told stories in games. And once I found out, like, you know, look online to read, because it's not just incoherently told. There's just like cutscenes that are missing and background information you don't get. Once I figured out who your character is in this, I was like, that's so fucking dumb. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. But you are an entity called Ego, who is trapped in this strange mansion that was once owned by a toy maker named Henry Stauf. Notice that the last name anagrams to Faust.
Yes.
Important. And you've got to solve these puzzles while witnessing these glimpses of a fateful party that was held here once long ago.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sounding, other than being Ego, the child, the ghost that continued to grow after the child died. Rather than being Ego, all of that's cool.
Yes.
I'm down with that. And like, I have a stupid amount of affection for Stauf.
Uh-huh. Oh,
like, I like that actor. I like everything when he's in it. I think his dumbass, like, taunting voice, like, it's infuriating and it happens way too often. But like, I was just like, this is so dumb. There's a scene in the second one with him that is just like really, really good about soup. And that's really good. Like, it's very funny.
Oh, Stauf is absolutely, if you throw everything else away, keep Stauf.
Yeah, Stauf gets to be in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen volume like 30 or whatever, right? Yeah. I'm way into Stauf. So the way this structures as this Ego, you're floating around, you're going through seeing the remains of this party, this very Clue-like environment as a digitized movie, and in between you are doing these brain teaser puzzles, like literal games magazine, you know, chess puzzles, reversey, things like that.
Right. Yeah. But it is those story remnants that make this game important, and I'm very grateful that Doug brought this to us and kind of forced our hand, because this is a historically notable game, right? You know, this is a killer app for the PC, for PC CD-ROM drives specifically. It was even shipped with CD-ROM drives. Huge system pusher. It only shipped on CD. It's like Myst in that regard, that this came out first. And the pre-rendered 3D graphics and FMV acting were a huge deal when this came out on the PC. We know from, talking about stuff on the Sega CD, other FMV games, FMV had happened before this or was in development before this. But it was on like special video systems that used tapes and stuff. This is all digital.
Yeah. And this was, so I was 13 when this came out. And my uncle that had the high end for the time PC, who I played a lot of these games, had this. And I can confirm as a 13-year-old that this looked like the future.
Yeah.
Like not just the pre-rendered not just the FMV, but walking around the mansion.
Oh, yeah.
Like as a 13-year-old, I played a lot of the Seventh Guest. Like I made no progress because it's not a game for 13-year-olds. But just being able to walk around this mansion felt so incredibly cool. And later when I played Myst, just the fact that it didn't animate between made that seem worse. Right. Even though obviously time has proven the opposite, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, like just as opposed to a series of still images, this like you actually move around this fucking mansion. This looks so cool. And I still think the mansion looks good. Like for like it looks cool. Like it's blue and atmospheric and like kind of spooky to walk around, and I like the soundtrack. Like the actual experience of moving around this mansion is still pretty neat. And at the time, just gobsmacking. Yeah,
I like moving around, and like when something big is on the screen, I can click it and see a special little animation. Where it falls down is in the 11th Guest, where existing in this mansion is a fucking Riddler nightmare.
The 11th Guest is very like a very bad game.
Yes.
And it has a reputation, we'll get to it, it has a reputation for being such that I didn't believe for some reason because it sounds just like the Seventh Guest.
Right.
So as the kind of rhythm of this, you're exploring these rooms of the mansion. New rooms open up kind of as you see more story scenes. And then you can see these items around the house. You can examine them. A lot of them are little cosmetic. That's like the manhole. Like they just do a little animation or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're mostly looking for puzzle objects. And you find the puzzle object. You solve the puzzle, and that is you advancing towards the end state of the game.
Yes. Now, when we say, hey, this is a point-and-click adventure game, and we say there are puzzles, you might be picturing something like Myst, where you are manipulating a big multi-room kind of device, or something like a LucasArts game where you're gathering items. That's not the case. Basically, nothing leaves a room. With one exception in the first game, every puzzle is endemic to just one room or one screen.
Yeah. Usually one screen. It's usually completely disconnected from the room you're in.
Yes, it is just an object that is sitting on a dresser, and when you hover your skeleton hand over it, it turns into a skull with a big bulging brain, and that means, hey, it's puzzle time.
Yeah. Yep. And now you are in an issue of Games Magazine.
Yeah.
Like quite literally.
Variety.
Yeah, quite literally. Like in Games Magazine. And a lot of times they don't even really have the kind of a suggestion of a metaphor.
No, this is not like a Zero Escape escape room, right? Where the puzzles kind of link
you're
into
doing
some kind of
Towers of Hanoi, but you're actually manipulating energy to get the engine to start. It's not BioWare doing that bullshit in Knights of the Old Republic.
It's not like that.
It would just be Towers of Hanoi, even though that's not in here.
There is next to no integration between the puzzles and the actual story or anything else that goes on. The only justification is that Stauf, he was a toy maker and he likes tormenting people, so he has these puzzles that he forces them to solve.
If you take anything away from this podcast, it's that my man Stauf wears a lot of hats. Because as a demon murderer, hobo, toy maker, brilliant chemist, he just gets around. He's the Swiss Army knife of villains.
Yeah, no, he's a real Renaissance man.
Yeah. You say nothing about him other than he is a Renaissance man. Here lies Stauf. So there's just no integration, which is weird because if you read interviews with these dudes, they talk about how that was the goal. Right. Like they love that. They're like, oh, maybe it looks like a maze, but you could put a princess at the end of the maze, and then it's a night on a quest and stuff. And I was like, when did you come up with that? Was it like right after you shipped the game? Because it doesn't happen in the game at all.
No.
I mean, a couple of times, like the virus puzzle specifically, there are ones where it does, but there's very little integration.
Right.
Like you said. So these are like chess puzzles, word puzzles, logic puzzles, things like that. The main guy who designed the puzzle puzzles in the game, was just a big fan of those. Like had a subscription to that magazine. Depending on what these are, I can relate. Like I'm also a fan of some of these types of puzzles.
Yeah, there are some that I just hate. I would rather stick my hand into a garbage disposal. But there are ones where it's like, I can totally get down with this, especially like the spatial ones.
Yeah, almost anything with chess I'm pretty into.
Yeah.
In this game. And there, like I said, there are spatial ones that are generally pretty good. Mm-hmm. There are other ones that kind of lose me a little bit. There are like ones that just feel like trial and error.
Yeah.
And then again in the sequel, they just double down on the worst ones.
Right.
If you get I think this is actually pretty clever and kind of forward thinking. Mm-hmm. If you get stuck on the puzzle, there's a magical book in the library that you can use for hints. And this will give you a hint on the puzzle. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it isn't. But you have that out. The manual says if you use this too much, there'll be a consequence, but that's not real.
No, it's not like you get a game over. All that happens is when you
don't get the cutscene.
You don't get the cutscene. So the story will make even less sense, which is kind of like saying your garbage can will get just a little bit more stinky.
Yeah, it doesn't like can't imagine people putting together this story without a bunch of supplementary material.
Right.
From outside. So just giving you that out, I actually really appreciate.
Yeah.
In game, that's cool. Yeah. I like that.
Like we said, as part of that rhythm, when you solve the puzzle, if you do not have the book solve it for you, you get to see kind of an event that happened in that room. The events are, this is vaguely nonlinear. Like you open up batches of puzzles as you go along. You're going to see bits of the story kind of out of sequence, so that obscures it even more.
Yeah. And they decided to have like a lot of characters with conflicting motivations in this, which like the complexity does this no favors in terms of the story, like having all of these different characters there, because it's very easy to mix them up.
Oh yeah, you cannot discern them from each other because of the resolution, because of the distance from which they are shot.
Yeah.
If you told me, hey, you need to differentiate Nox from the other guy, I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't pick them out in a lineup,
right?
Except for Temple,
right? Well, because he wears a turban. Because
he dresses as a Zoltan machine.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he grants people wishes when they want to be so grande. So like that FMV stuff is a really big deal. In a way that is kind of clever, they knew that the green screen was going to look like shit. It was going to have really bad resolution. So they made them ghosts.
Right.
So that was like the plot following the function. But what doesn't follow the function is them, because of that reason too, this is intentional if you watch the making of, they were like, okay, because this is so out of focus and grainy and shitty, emotions are not going to come across unless you guys really fucking emote.
Right.
And every single person plays to the rafters. And like, that's a very popular thing to, we're living in this golden age of like, cinema like that. Like everyone loves Nicolas Cage now,
right?
Who like overacts. Everybody loves that kind of overacting stuff now. Really though, that's only really good when an actual actor does it.
Yeah.
So like you end up with Stauf, who was a real actor.
Right.
That guy, real fun. Everyone else, throw them in the fucking trash. Like I hate every other character in this game. They're so boring. I think that kid sucks so bad. They're just like, there's no charisma to it.
There's no magnetism. Like they're just obviously if their appearance, and the resolution of the technology is not going to draw you in. There has to be something magnetic about their affect. There's nothing.
Yeah. And so it's these 6 people who are in the mansion, invited by Stauf. So Stauf is great, super hammy, Riddler figure, more or less.
Stauf is hammier than Easter dinner.
Yeah, it's great. He's super good. He's invited these people in the mansion, tormenting them to solve puzzles. The idea is they all have a desire, and they think that Stauf can kind of grant their wish. So they all have these different desires. It's a lot like Clue because they all are different people with a secret.
Yeah.
They're all invited to a dinner party. But like Clue, as much as, we talked about that in an episode of Adaptation Decay, which you should listen to if you're a patron. That was real ass actors, and they got across that same, like that. No one's understated in that movie.
No.
Like, those are pretty hammy performances. It's just like, oh, acting is a thing. You know, like your friend who thinks they can just open up a restaurant. Actually, people go to school for that. Like that's there's knowledge involved in doing that.
Yeah. It is a discipline.
Yeah, just don't assume you can just do it.
Right.
You know, and that's what it's so like sub-community theater.
Yeah, and like, you know, even Stauf, if you look at his IMDb, that actor doesn't have really any other credits besides playing this character, right? So everybody I think was just somebody who was around Jacksonville, Oregon, who they managed to pull in, and they just happened to get really, really lucky with Stauf's actor.
Yeah, and got very, very unlucky with everyone else.
Right. So, like, well, one of the reasons they had to go oversized with the acting is because they had no master scene. Like they couldn't establish the shot and then cut in on expressions because, you know, you've got to keep the camera in one place. You are the character witnessing this from one perspective. You know, and you know, they didn't have the ability really to render like the background for a close up, right? So everybody is acting for the back seats. It is theatrical acting, but done in bad theatrical acting, but done in very low resolution, kind of film, but not even using the techniques of film. Yeah. It
really makes you kind of realize that you take a lot of things for granted.
Yeah.
I think in this, because you might think like, oh, I just need to have these characters stand and convey this information. No, there's a lot more you need.
Yes.
To that. So everyone I find a little bit annoying. There's always kind of a wind up to every shot.
Yeah.
And then kind of a cool down, like people kind of taking a couple steps before they say their thing, you know, and then kind of like standing for a moment afterwards. Like it's not edited very well. You know, as we mentioned, Stauf does a lot better job. Like he's more fun in cutscenes. He taunts you throughout the game, which is charming and a problem, which is like a lot of the Seventh Guest.
Yeah.
Like because you can't do anything while it's happening because of like technology restraints that couldn't just be part of the soundtrack.
No.
The game kind of grinds to a halt while he says like feeling flustered to knight, and then you're moving knights around a chessboard.
Right.
You know, which is kind of fun. But boy, it happens very frequently.
Yeah, do not arrest my cursor, please.
And
that
never
happens all
arrest
the time
cursor.
in this.
Yeah, the never arrest the cursor.
Yeah, and also like there are some puzzles where even if you're just doing the solving the puzzle, he will say the same thing after like every 4 moves or so.
Yeah, and your character responds.
Oh yeah,
and your character is not charismatic and fun.
Right.
So ego can sit on attack, and you have to listen to ego a lot.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah. So like we said, the original intention was to have these events taking place as you moved around the mansion, kind of concurrently. However, the chroma key blue screen technology left these huge ghostly auras around the actors. So they said, boom, ghost story. And they pivoted.
Yeah. Lots of pivots in the provenance of this, it feels like, because it does do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So Seventh Guest, Trilobite itself is the brainchild of 2 specific people for the most part, Rob Landeros and Graham Devine, who were employees at Virgin, who pitched the game to them, and they said, yes, but we can't do it under Virgin.
Right.
So they were fired. Virgin produced it, but they started their own company. It was like a fake firing.
Yeah. So they could go out and kind of gear up for this.
Yes. Because they were like, hey, they legitimately, like, we're talking a lot of shit, and money doesn't, there's no Worthington's law. They were on to something.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm sure that's later in the notes how big a deal this was, but like, it wasn't like everyone was out of their mind.
Right.
Like, they were on to something. It made sense for Virgin to do this. It was a good, safe gamble. Originally, they wanted their idea to be the game to be composed just of photographs and video footage. So the mansion. So they're going to like shoot this mansion in 360, all these things, but it wasn't feasible. So they went with rendering.
Yeah. So they've got the 3D rendering, which made it, easier to do. I think some of these more adventurous transitions and things like that, which work to the game's benefit, kind of, except they drop you someplace you really don't want to be, which is a bummer.
Yeah, we'll the doing the space doesn't make sense is something that also, again, like you might take for granted and be like, oh, we just have to make characters go to random places when they go into the the stovepipe. It's like, no, actually, like, that's important too. Like, thought goes into some of the stuff you're taking for granted, guys.
Yeah. But Stauf's Mansion is based on a real place. It's called the Noonan House. It's in Jacksonville, Oregon, which is basically Northern California. It's like 2 hours away from Redding. But yeah, like you can rent this place on Airbnb.
Yeah, and will.
Yep.
Yeah. I would appreciate having for living in the Stauf Mansion,
like a party weekend. There are 5 bedrooms. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just living.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't you want to live in Stauf's Mansion?
Oh yeah. It looks like a beautifully maintained property.
I love a mansion.
Yes.
Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
So based on this real place, so even though they didn't use photographs, they still based it on this thing. The way they were able to do this kind of rendering was because of this new compression technology.
Yeah.
So this game, was the most visually impressive thing at the time, was on 2 CDs.
Yeah.
Again, contrast with like Phantasmagoria, like 8 CD Sierra games from later.
Right. Yeah. And one of their main design ethos with this was centered around this question, what would mom play? Kind of a shitty loaded gendered question or whatever, but just the idea, somebody who is not necessarily into Twitch play, how can we make this game approachable and make it so that the control is not necessarily a barrier to doing what you want to do.
And controls in this are really intuitive.
Yeah.
Like having the icon move around, have a contextual icon for an adventure game was cool at this time.
Yes.
Even.
The 25th anniversary edition adds something which is very welcome, which is just a button you can press that highlights clickable things.
Yes.
That I really missed in the 11th hour.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super useful. As is, though, it's still for the time, like, pretty well controlled. This is something that's so they are like, hey, we just happen to know this guy named Matthew Costello. He already had worked on games and he was a horror novelist.
Right.
So he's perfect. And like, is he though? Because I like, I want to read one of these guys' books, because do you think they're anything fucking like this?
Probably not.
This is ineptly written and
poorly.
I know that sounds poorly conveyed, and the dialogue. It's not just the performances. Like, it's just not particularly good writing.
Right.
And that whole like Stauf wears many hats thing is funny.
It's funny,
but it doesn't make for a good. Good fiction. It just makes for funny fiction.
It's like a head-on collision at a 5-way intersection of concepts.
Yeah. Which like that you don't want to read.
Right.
Like if like 5 books all crashed into one another.
Well, there's a so there is a novel. Like it is one of the downloadables with GOG. I think maybe...
it came with the game. With some additions of the game, along with a VHS tape of the making of.
Oh yeah.
Which I demand everyone go on YouTube and watch, because it's a gallery of just the 90s-est looking like people that you've ever seen in your life, and it's really good.
Yep.
Like
but the novel doesn't necessarily, from flipping through it and then also reading a summary, it doesn't necessarily concern itself with the events of the game. It's more about kind of backstories for the individual
6 characters. It's these 6 characters.
Right.
The music in this, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah.
This is done by George the Fat Man Sanger, who is pretty famous. Like, he's done a lot of music. He's the guy who did the Maniac Mansion music, Ultima Underworld, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, like wonderful, music composer. Really larger than life character who also makes a great appearance in that documentary.
He shows up bringing some big rockapella energy.
His ringers that he brings, who he introduces as they're just and like when he walks up and they show him like doing the slow walk in, like I kind of love it. Like it's pretty good, and he's reliably good. Like if you see him on a soundtrack, it's going to be a pretty good soundtrack.
Yeah, I just pulled those examples because those are games that we have covered on the show, and also I love the music in all those games. So
he does great work. It is, and the music in this game it's this kind of like he hit it. This is one of the things that like does hit it right out of the park, because it's kind of like jazzy and fun, but a little spooky. Like if you were going to make a horror game, a horror puzzle game, I think this is pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
So great work.
Yeah. Manages to hit it, makes smart choices too. Like he's got themes and leitmotifs that kind of add and subtract instruments that represent different characters, and he explains this in the documentary, similar to Peter and the Wolf, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And he's also the guy who did the soundtrack for Freddy Fish and the Case of the Missing Kelp Seeds.
Oh, geez.
So if you all you kelp heads out there,
all you Fred heads, please.
All you Fred heads. So kelp. I need anybody. Kelp. Give seed somebody. So he's great. The music is great.
Right.
This game was a blockbuster success.
Yes,
just a huge worldwide phenomenon.
And it was, which is good because this is one of the first video games that cost more than $1 million to make.
Yeah.
Along with Myst, it created the craze for games like this that was extremely flash in the pan.
Yeah, Myst likes. Yeah. Like, there's a reason why Doom clones, people are still making them now.
Right.
But people are not necessarily making Myst likes, except for, the Rand brothers.
I mean, Cyan.
Yeah, Cyan is doing it. But, like, there, that hasn't maintained as much as other. It didn't birth a genre, really.
Right.
Of this. And it's, Myst clones that we have seen or played for Abject Suffering, or ones I have played, it's this weird thing where it's a flash in the pan and almost none of them are good.
Right.
Like Myst is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be it. Like,
Myst and its many sequels.
Yeah. Like, what else? It's just this weird thing where at the time it was just visually impressive.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like when, there were like movies people would own when they got a DVD player to show off special features.
Yes.
Or like they wouldn't really like the movie very much, but like this just has a lot of bonus features.
The Matrix was one of those.
Matrix was one of those. All the Austin Powers movies were, weirdly enough. Like, I knew a lot of people with the Austin Powers movies who were not, big Austin Powers fans. They just really, look at this, this interactive menu.
Right.
That plays,
Yeah. Scratches is pretty good. I wish I could get it to run, but there's a game called Amber Journeys Beyond, which is also a spooky first person Myst-like kind of thing where you're going into people's dreams. What?
Scratches is okay.
Okay. I'm going by memories from like a game that I played 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's okay. I played that more recently than that.
Okay.
Probably before the show started, but more recently than 20 years ago, and it's okay. It's pretty rough.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's some atmosphere. But.
Yeah. I just it's hard to think of any that are not Abject Suffering candidates.
Yeah. And not just because they're FMV, right? Like, I think Gabriel Knight 2 is only a little worse than Gabriel Knight 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that FMV, we love contradiction. Like, FMV is not a fail condition.
No.
It's this weird, you touched on it early on. It's this weird David Cage-esque, right? Like, it's impossible not to name check him when you talk about technology being put before the gameplay, or being put before the story, or being put before the art.
Yeah.
In any way. Like, games that, yes, the characters in Detroit might look very real. But if you're spending so much time and energy on that, you're kind of by necessity neglecting everything else.
Right.
And all of these games have that in common. With the exception of Myst, because Myst is the weird outlier. There.
I mean, I just so we can stipulate, like, all of the mainline Myst games are good. Like,
yeah. When I say Myst, I haven't played all. I played Myst 1 and 2, but I believe you that they're definitely at least a far sight better than this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you want to do a comparison, just compare Riven to the 11th hour, and show that like yes, there is a way to evolve this and elaborate, and make something that kind of transcends the original in a lot of ways.
There was no intention to evolve or transcend with this.
Right.
I think with the 11th hour, it was literally made before this came out. Like the start, So it was just to make it was like an expansion pack.
This chart shows disco music sales for 1979, and if this trend continues,
so the Seventh Guest has been on quite a few ports,
right?
So the Philips CDI, that whole those things that only rich unpopular kids own. Like we're
here's my interactive body atlas.
Yeah. Hey guys, do you guys want to play a pretty shitty version of Aliens versus Predator on my Jaguar? Kids,
say
come
Jaguar?
play my Jaguar. Yeah, I want all these kids to come over and play my Jaguar. This character I've been working on. You'll meet him in Object Suffering.
Okay.
Part of this resurgence work. Believe it or not, people, you may not have known this, but we're in the middle of a 7th guest resurgence right now.
Are we?
Yeah, kind of, because they're making a sequel now. And that 25th anniversary edition of it, there was an iOS port that was just a straight up port.
Yeah.
That came several years ago. And now there's this 25th anniversary edition that is on iOS and is, on GOG and Steam and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which has those highlightable things and such that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think when I played this, it was I didn't get very far because I got bored. But when I played it, it was whatever version came out for iOS a while back. It might have been iPad only at the time.
I played it on my phone.
Oh, well.
It actually plays really well on iOS.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty well suited to it, and I think that they actually released, they cut a puzzle from it. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And then released it as its own iOS app.
You can still get that, and it's actually pretty good.
It's very funny that they did that. I wish that they had made a mode for the 25th anniversary edition that was just you choosing puzzles from a list.
Yes.
I understand that you could still let you keep playing the regular game, but if you just had a big list of all the puzzles, that would have been the ideal way to play that on your phone, I think.
Yeah. So got those ports. There is the sequel, which we'll talk about later. And there was a cash grab that they did that is probably the most spectacular failure I've seen. This is
amazing.
It is the Zizix Road of video games.
It's the thing I was talking about where it's just the puzzles. It's a compilation of just the puzzles.
Right.
None of the stuff. It's a game called Uncle Henry's Playhouse.
Yep.
And if you're listening to this at home, play a little game and think about how many copies this sold.
Yeah. What
do you consider to be a failure?
Yeah. What's a failure for a game created by a studio that created this incredibly successful game? Like,
Capcom thinks this game underperformed. It only sold like 4 million copies.
Yeah.
Try 27.
Try 27 stateside. Try 176 worldwide.
And not 176,000.
No, there are no commas.
1,000. Yeah, just 27. Like you can picture right now. Like if you wanted to collect them all, you could conceivably collect them all, and not every copy that's ever come out. Like you could just have all 27 copies.
Yeah, you
of Uncle Henry's Playhouse and store them comfortably in a shoebox. It's amazing.
I'm curious, Gary, because you said you could collect them all. Something that had that small of a print run, like if most of them didn't just end up in garbage cans, like how expensive would that be? Uncle Henry's Playhouse.
I was gonna send you to a Pornhub.
Oh, okay.
Which you've never seen.
Gary, okay, so a pre-owned CD copy of this is $31.49. I kind of want to buy this so I can own something.
You own 1/27th of the population of this game.
Yeah.
Like that puts you into a very exclusive club, Cole. Like for only $30.
How exclusive is a club that costs $30 to get into? Very
exclusive. If there's less than 27 people in it, it's just an unpopular club. It's like this is the annual meeting of people who like to lick their cat's butts after they shit to make sure that they're clean because we don't trust the cat. And it's like there's not very many people in this club, but there's also not very many people in it.
Right.
Really, really amazing stuff. That's I might do that as well. This could be the Duckfeed game. Like when somebody gets into the Duckfeed inner circle, they get a copy of Uncle Henry's Playhouse, one of the only 27 in the world. There's also a game that's a spiritual successor to this called Clandestiny. Which I was looking into that actually looks kind of fun to me. It looks more fun than the 11th Hour. Like it is like kind of a children's story that takes place in medieval Europe. Like a guy inherits a Scottish castle that has ghosts and spirits in it, but the story does not look like it's off the rails.
Yeah, it's done. It's traditional animation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think that looks kind of good.
Yeah.
they were going to make a third game for this,
Yes.
called The Collector. There's a trailer for that that's 3 minutes long. And it opens with this puzzle that is this kind of like three-dimensional chess kind of thing. It's
like
not
the kind
chess.
Trump plays?
Yeah, getting political on here. He's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-level tile moving thing that looks like just looking at it made me furious. Like, it's just like, I cannot imagine putting up with this horse shit.
No.
But it involved him a gallery in Europe that Stauf has been appointed to be the curator of, because like, many hats.
Yeah. I do like the idea of Stauf kind of extending himself into a kind of a Leland Gaunt kind of thing, just setting up his own needful things and making deals on the road.
They tried to kickstart the sequel and did not make it.
Yeah. 2013. It was kind of a pitiful sum they were asking for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when they tried to do the Boogerman remake and they only got like $600.
Yeah. That's always kind of sad to me.
Yeah.
Like, you think like anything that somebody knows,
right,
will be. Instead, though, fans started making a sequel called The 13th Doll, and then the original creators of the Seventh Guest got in touch with them and officially licensed it.
Right.
It's a fan game, but it's made with input and blessing of the original creators, and comes out in July.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know it wasn't out. Huh?
Yep.
It comes out
pre-order
this year.
now for a limited time discount price.
Huh? I don't know. I might check that out. Who knows?
Yeah, it's $20 for a digital copy. I could see them doing it well.
Yeah.
That was a successful Kickstarter. Raised over $60,000.
Okay.
And they it looks neat. Like it uses pre-rendered kind of versions instead of actors for the things, which look cool.
Nice.
You can get yourself a handsome 13th doll hoodie.
Okay.
They have a bunch of different merchandise. A lot of them are just, man, Cole, let me put this shirt in your Slack.
Okay.
Sorry for people listening. This is
this is just for us.
This 13th doll merchandise. I gotta get this shirt, dude. I'm dying.
Yay!
Look how off-center it is.
Oh,
can you just paint a picture with your words? Describe this shirt for the audience.
Okay, so like a nice shirt that you get, it's like silk screened, like screen printed on. This is a not nice shirt that appears to. So it is a kind of an asphalt gray base, blank. And it is the not nice version, which is like
color things over to the right and do the one in the lower right. Do the sun yellow, just because I think it really ties it together.
Oh, it does. Yeah. So picture just a terrible kind of like splash page collage that you would see at the beginning of a game that released in 2000, like other games by this publisher. So just a lot of art kind of mismatched together, applied to a big, perfectly rectangular vinyl
like a
applique.
mouse pad was glued to the front of a shirt.
Yes. So it is the bad kind of printing, which appears, if it looks like this, if it is what it looks like, it is just a vinyl application that would not breathe and would immediately make you sweat and chafe under it.
Just in a perfect rectangle on your chest. Yes. Like you would just have beads of sweat pooling up.
Yes.
And I might get this in yellow. Like if it actually looks like this. There's free shipping right now for the next 2 days.
Okay.
I might get this shirt.
Okay.
I think this is very funny.
Yeah, we're to our next show.
Yeah, this can go into my con rotation of shirts. Like it's a little pricey, but it's very funny. And it's premium. It says it's a premium shirt.
Ooh.
So hey, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
Although
that collar looks really uncomfortable. What is that heather stripe doing there?
Yeah.
No.
It looks good in red too. There's a couple different colors that just like really make this pop.
Yeah, I like the green. I think the green looks especially good.
Green's good. Yeah. I think I might go with yellow though. That is that hideous. Anywho, that's the future of the Seventh Guest. That's why I say we're in a Seventh Guest.
It's literally just the banner that's at the top of the 13thdoll.com.
Yeah, but they put it on his shirt.
Yeah.
And they put it on 1,000 things. Like, it's not just on shirts. It's also, there's a whole kids and babies section.
Okay.
Who's buying their fucking, like, buying a baby bib?
I mean, it's especially grim given the subject matter.
Yeah, totally. And they have a much more attractive logo that they have as well. This is just the weird collage one, but they have one that's just like a blue with a lightning bolt.
They've
and a big stylized 13. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining getting your baby like a onesie, short sleeve baby bodysuit in with this mouse pad glued to the front of it. Really pretty incredible stuff here.
Just go to the 13thdoll.com and look at the banner graphic that's at the top. That is what would be emblazoned across your chest.
If I'm wearing this shirt at a convention and you're wearing this shirt at a convention, I will buy you a drink.
Yeah.
Until the end of time.
But do not hug that person, because I think the vinyl gets tacky.
If we stuck them together,
we would transfer.
Use like a Dragon Ball. Like, it would just we would no longer be able to be separate. We would now be a forearm for like Modlock type creature. Let's get into it. Since this game has the puzzles, there's not a lot to talk about.
Right.
And the story is inconsequential. We're going to cruise a little bit on some of this. And we still have to get to the 11th hour, which neither of us beat.
Right.
But
you watched the movie, though.
I watched most of the movie.
Okay.
It's so hard to watch the fucking movie because everything's so dark.
Yeah.
Like, everything is shot, like, with no lighting.
Okay.
It's really weird. So I watched most of the movie. I saw the soup scene. I saw the house that raped me scene.
Yeah.
I saw the dog with the human face. Like, I saw a lot of the good stuff.
Okay.
I didn't see all of the good stuff because I got bored and angry.
Yeah.
And then playing the game made me really angry because not only does it rely on anagrams, which I have a type 5 about, we'll do about halfway through this episode, but also so many of the puzzles rely on color. Like, I actively couldn't do it. So let us do the seventh guest instead, though. Let's go.
Let's do it. So it opens up with a storybook, like a history book, describing the tale, the woeful tale of this drifter named Henry Stauf, who robs and kills a woman.
Germaine.
What's that?
Not Germaine.
No.
Like, I kept expecting, this is the opening, this is the inciting incident, is the drifter being desperate enough to rob a woman and kill her. But then this other story just starts.
Yep.
Like, it's like when a band like misses the first chord of a song and then just like 1, 2, like just re-clicks. Start again is what this feels like.
Yeah.
You're not expecting that woman to have anything to do with anything.
No. I think it's a little bit like joining the what is it, the Dark Brotherhood and Oblivion.
Oh,
you got to kill somebody and then it draws the attention of the forces. Yeah,
that could be it.
The
demon finally reached out to Stauf because of that.
Yeah. But that night he has a dream and he sees a design for a really cool doll. So he reaches out and grabs it in his dream, and then he carves a replica of this in his real life. He sells one to a barkeep, and then eventually...
this is in the 20s, by the way.
Yes.
So if people are like, I'm having a hard time conceptualizing of a famous doll.
Right.
It's the 20s.
Right. Especially one carved out of wood. And this like turns into a very, very successful toy business to the point where he is known worldwide as this what is it, like FAO Schwartz kind of figure.
Sure, like a toy maker. A Stauf toy is a toy for life. They say, and spooky old toy maker who looks like Clint Howard. Into it so far.
Yeah, I think he looks like Mr. Leahy.
Yeah. I don't know who that is.
It's
I saw that you posted a picture of it, but I don't know who that is.
He's one of the character from. He's the trailer park supervisor from Trailer Park Boys. He's got that kind of like crown of hair around the back of his head, kind of thing, like going bald super ungracefully, kind of thing. So he opened a store. Everyone went nutso for these toys. He grew very wealthy. So rags to riches. Right.
But then the virus came. There's a virus in play.
But then the virus came. That's a quote. Like, that's something that they just drop on you 40 seconds into this story.
Yeah. So there's a virus. Kids started dying left and right.
Yeah.
So the implication being that he has stuck this Ebola into his toys,
right,
and then kids get it.
Yes.
And the choice of making that a virus, again, it just feels like this is taking left turns like over and over and over. Like, why this has to be a virus and not a curse?
It could be a curse, like a cursed doll is a thing.
Yeah, it's we have demons at work.
Yeah,
the demons who gave Stauf the Drifter, the super science knowledge to craft a virus, which we see the provenance of.
Right, we see his
lab. We get to see his lab. He has a lab. I don't get it. Like, it's so weird.
Again,
he's fucking Resident Evil. It's like Umbrella.
It's a 50 concept pileup.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this happened and he retired from society. His final vision was to build a house, right? It showed him every detail of this house. So he built it, and then Willy Wonka, he disappeared until finally he invited 6 people. We see this procession of these ghostly rich people passing by the stained glass window, which is the front of this house.
Yes. So Miss Burden first. There's this elderly couple.
The Knoxes.
Yeah. There's a dowager named Heine. Dutton, who we'll find out is driven by guilt.
Yes.
He thinks the house smells bad. And then a man in a turban, who, again, dressed like a Zoltar machine, who says nothing.
Yes, this is Temple, who is kind of like of the 6, it's him and Heine who end up being kind of the heroes of this.
They're the good people.
Yes.
They're good people. Everyone else is evil. We don't know this yet, and the game reveals it in kind of sloppy ways, but they were all invited here because Stauf is in this world, he's world famous. He's very rich, and they think he can kind of grant their wishes.
Right. Well, that's
really weird.
That's what he said in the letter that was sent. Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, this rich guy. Like, if Elon Musk said he could grant my wish, and it's like, I want
dog. I've seen your Twitter. Come on.
Yeah, I want to be Gary Gunfingers, so each of my fingers shoots bullets when I want them to. You can't grant that shit.
No.
I mean, you might be able to with invasive surgery and memes, but I just rich people cannot grant wishes. One of these people want to be young again. It's not. One of them wants to know real magic.
Right.
So it's a little bit confused. I think that if they had not made him a super scientist and made him more of like the dad in Edward Scissorhands or something.
Yeah.
An eccentric recluse the whole time where there's a bunch of mystery, but stuff's out and about. Everyone, he's a little too famous for this. He's not like a folk tale.
Right.
It's weird. So then you appear, you're there. You can examine the stained glass, and you see Dutton reading the note from Stauf, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
Only one guest will leave, and Dutton needs to do something with the 7th guest.
Right.
That is the mystery, who is the 7th guest?
Yes.
If you read interviews with these people, they talk about, and this is, as designed to be as much of a Cole Ross thirst trap as this game is, it is explicitly said to be inspired by Twin Peaks.
Right.
So I wish I could have Trojan horse this to you as, it's a Myst inspired by Twin Peaks. Just put it under a box with a stick and a string.
Yeah. And then you just say that's how you get me to the vet for some reason.
Yeah. Declaw him. You heard me. But so it's the idea that what they seem to have taken from Twin Peaks is not any of the atmosphere and stuff.
Right.
But they were that summer everyone was just who killed Laura Palmer? We wanted to have a question at the center of our thing, and the question we wanted was, who is the 7th guest?
Yeah.
which sounds evocative until you know what it fucking is.
Yeah.
But it does sound evocative.
It does, yeah. To their credit, they did figure out Twin Peaks a little bit with the 11th Hour.
It does have a little bit more Twin Peaks energy to it, while still also by no means being good.
Right. So this front door is your first puzzle. You've got this 8-pointed star, and you've got these spiders that show up on all the points, or most of the points, and you have to swap their places.
Yes, and this starts a generality of the puzzles in this.
Yeah.
Which I don't like, which is that part of the puzzle is figuring out the rules of the puzzle. that works really well in Myst because you could deduce the rules based on something being an object in like an alien culture, essentially.
It's like, so like a gear is still a gear. Okay, cool.
Well, not just a gear is still a gear, but like I'm trying to get this door open.
Yes.
So I know that the function of this is to open this door. I just need to figure out the specifics of it.
Yeah, the puzzles are integrated into a context. Into
a context and a world. So you have, since these are standalone puzzles, making you kind of guess at the rules, I find really odious in this. The universal hint system for Seventh Guest is really good. And it has for every puzzle, they have two categories, one of which is the rules and one of which is the solution.
Yeah.
So and sometimes the rules are obvious, right? And they will tell you, but sometimes they don't. So something like this, where it just eventually you learn, the rules to make things switch places.
Yeah.
But until you get to that, it's a little bit obnoxious. Like moving these spiders, they can only move to places directly across from them. And the trick is not to trap yourself so you don't have any moves left.
Right.
On the seventh guest curve, this is not a terrible puzzle, but it is a little bit annoying to know what you're supposed to do when just kind of confronted with this image that looks frankly abstract.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it's pretty emblematic of a lot of puzzles that we're going to get later on. And when you solve this, you see another person. You see a little boy named Tad. Yeah. Who is trying to escape out the front door of the house. He's frantic. He hears someone screaming, and so he runs. And so we have seen the seventh guest. So that amazing Laura Palmer mystery. Okay, there it is.
Cool. Yep, here's Tad. The seventh guest. Tad. Yeah, who killed Laura Palmer? Tad. Whenever Laura Palmer dies, a Tad did it.
Yeah.
This is a puzzle that stands out in a lot of people's memories. I think it's the puzzle a lot of people did first.
Yeah. Because
it might not be intuitive to turn around. If you go to the dining room, you see a memory of all the guests gathering when they first get there. And they're told to each take a cake, but it has to be exactly the same as everyone else's, including symbols that are on the cake.
Yeah.
It's a sheet cake with skulls, tombstones, and some squares that are blank.
Yes.
And you need to make everybody 5 squares of cake, which a lot of cake. And each one has 2 skulls, 2 tombstones, and 1 bit of icing.
Yes. And this is cool. I like this. This is fun because it is literally just trying to cut it up into contiguous pieces.
And the bark that you constantly get, Stauf popping in every once in a while to be like, it's just icing on the is not great, but I like the delivery of Ego going some cannot be more equal than others. As just kind of a sentence. That's one of those sentences that feels initially makes sense. And then it's very similar. Scrutiny. Yeah, exactly. It's very similar to the Brayton Cameron classic. There's only 2 things I hate and both of them are dying twice. It's it has all of the structure of a sentence, but falls apart immediately.
I love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Brayton stories. Somebody told him that at a roadside attraction, a reptile zoo.
Oh, fun!
Which I just think is God, that's good. That's what a glorious gift. So afterwards, Miss Durden tempts Edward up to her room, kind of seduces him, and then we hear a scream.
Yes. A lot of these scenes are going to be punctuated by screams, and the sense that you,
yep,
the sense that you're getting if you're just listening to this is okay, they're spiders, stained glass. There's a cake with tombstones and skulls. This is just kind of a really generic setting that has a lot of Halloween stickers put on it.
Yeah,
and I'm here for it. I am here for the goofy spooky.
Yeah. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
I like that part quite a bit. I'm here for the goofy spooky.
Yes.
So next we're gonna head over to the library. One of the things that's kind of annoying about this is that the house opens up in an arbitrary fashion.
Yes. So you got to go check every door.
Yeah, you just check every door, and at certain points, just more things open up. That's senseless. It's atmospheric to move around the house, as we mentioned. The music is good. When I was a kid with unlimited patience, that was cool.
Yeah.
As an adult, I found it annoying.
Right click to skip the animations.
Yeah. Yep. So you go to the library here. There's a book on the coffee table. When you open it, this is your hint book. And there's a puzzle, quote unquote, at the telescope by this pair of French doors.
Yeah.
You can see the spiral through the glass, and when you look through the telescope, you look at Mars, and there are letters on a path. And this is kind of the puzzle where you have to kind of spell out a word.
Yes.
So you basically just have to make sure you're continually spelling words.
Yeah.
Through this.
Just occasionally, like there'll be a couple of runs where the next move is prescribed, like you can only go to one place. When there's a branch, you just want to make sure that either the word that you're starting is over, so you can start a new one, or make sure you're continuing a sensible word. This is fine. Probably the easiest puzzle.
Yeah, this is very easy. Yep.
When you finish, you get this 7-minute long nursery rhyme. Old man Stauf built a house and filled it with toys. And ends with an extremely hammy delivery, but old man Stauf is waiting there, crazy, sick, and mean.
Yeah, Batman. It's very good.
Yeah.
So we head up to the upstairs mezzanine. There's a painting there, and we get one of these little animations, like Phantom Man's push out of it. Again, very impressive in 1993, and charming now.
Yeah. So it's just an effect lifted out of Nightmare on Elm Street, just like the hands pushing out the rubber latex wall. Yeah.
Yep. So we see one of the guests chasing Tad. So people want to aqualung Tad. And we need to stop that because, we like Tad.
Yes. If you go the other way, there's this ghostly woman who is never explained.
I don't know who she is. She shows up in the trailer for the third one.
Weird.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's super ego. And if you head the other way, you see Burden appear through a door and grab one of the older men.
It grabs Dutton, I think.
Dutton.
Yeah. He's like a corrupt corporate executive kind of guy.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can go in there. You can go into Martine's, go into Burden's bedroom. This is a red bedroom here. The space warps a little bit when you come in, and there's a pattern on the bedspread with these letters and circles presented in kind of this winding track. And you get a little hint saying, you got to move in 3s and 5s.
Yep. So again, you're just spelling words, right? But you have those constraints there. When you get to the end of it, you spell out a phrase, the sky is ruddy and your fate is bloody. There's like kind of the goofiness of that. Like tonally, this is really kind of all over the place because there are definitely places where you're meant to take it seriously. But the Stauf is crazy, sick, and mean, and the sky is ruddy and your fate is bloody. And the sentence in the kitchen puzzle and stuff where it's just like, it's goofy, but not even like Halloween decoration goofy. It's like, those things rhyme.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I'll give you that. So I got, but like ruddy sky, just, I don't know. There's something about this, the word choices and some of this stuff that's just like, man.
Yeah. What is it? Like red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky in morning. Yeah. So after this, we see Burden seducing Edward there. He kisses her. And a goat skull is superimposed over this, which I love. They do this trick so much. Like they sometimes even when there's nothing else going on in the scene, but they just want to show like, okay, it's been 5 seconds and something spooky happened.
A skull.
Like maybe let's just put like a skeleton over them, and then it fades away. Yeah.
It's pronounced. It's like produced in Skuloscope. Like I really like it.
Yeah, it's Skelevision. But. The smell of her perfume changes and makes Ego sick. So
he does not care for it.
Good job picking one of the only senses that is not conveyed.
Yeah. And Ego can smell. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
He can smell the past. I got you. So we had to do another bedroom here, and we see Eleanor sitting on the bed and talks about this maze she saw, where she says, "Oh, you have to follow it all the way to the center."
Right. When you examine the floor, this is the one puzzle where the solution is showed to you outside the room. This is a map of a maze we're going to go to later, but then it pulls a switcheroo. The camera pans up to this chess puzzle with these bishops standing off against each other. This is the first puzzle that really gave me trouble. Because what you're trying to do, you have black bishops and white bishops, and you're on this limited board, and you have to get them to change places.
Yeah.
And they can never move to a place. They can never move to a spot that is in danger of being taken by another.
Yeah, this is tricky.
Yeah.
And the way it works, I mean, you can kind of just keep futzing.
Yeah.
with it, is like kind of how I think of chess moves. And one of the other kind of watchwords of this game is excessiveness.
Yes.
All of the puzzles are, and again, when I talked about things that the game would review poorly for now, that it reviewed well for then, there is that element of like, we need to make this worth your money.
Mm-hmm.
So things where it's like the basic concept of this puzzle, could be done in like, give us a puzzle that can be done in fewer moves.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like these puzzles where it's like, yeah, the minimum, you look online and the minimum number of moves is like 40.
Right.
And I'm like, holy shit. This 40 move chess puzzle thing.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
The thing with the map on the floor, it feels like it breaks the rules of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
It does make me want to do that in real life. Like, I would love to commission a map as a rug and then have that be the map of my hedge maze or something.
Oh, yeah?
And then just, like, invite Kevin from Video Games Hot Dog over enough times to see if he figures it out. Which he would, like, immediately.
You would, you would spend all that money and Kevin would just cut through it.
Yeah, he would know from the invitation.
Right.
But, like, just something like that, I think that's a very cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the the reward for this one, you see Eleanor talking backwards, but it's really just a warning about Stauf. No big deal. You cross over to the blue bedroom. This is Heine's bedroom, and she's in joy because, hey, this looks just like one she used to live in.
I love how everyone just immediately claimed rooms.
Yep.
Like, and then in the game, they're their bedroom as well.
Yes.
Like, we don't know exactly the time scale this takes place, the flashback takes place over, but like everybody gets a room that's kind of tailored to their personality and stuff, which I think is very funny.
Yeah.
Tell me your stuff.
This is one of the longer and more ridiculous cutscenes because Heine, she, her wish is for youth.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to this mirror to kind of anguish over her aged visage, right? She wants to be young, and so her reflection gets younger, then too young, and then she starts crying for her mom, and now she's a baby.
Yep. She went too far. Yep. Never go full baby. It's like how a Breakfast of Champions, and like where like at the end where Kilgore Trout says "Make me young," and then like, and then he's a baby, baby Kilgore Trout, the crankiest baby. So this rug also has a pattern, a drawing of heart on one side, and you have to kind of play pipe dreams to get the blood out.
Yeah.
So you move it's not really quite pipe dreams. You're moving little switches.
It's like valves. So like in some of them go from horizontal to vertical, and some of them switch diagonals. Kind of from the same hinge. This is fine. And this falls into a category of puzzle that would otherwise be a breeze, but because of the technical limitations, if you fail, so I made one small mistake at the end, and you have to watch this blood travel down the line very slowly.
Yeah, this person is very sick. Yeah. They're suffering from slow blood.
I'm sorry, you've got molasses blood?
Yeah. Yeah, you got the slowest blood. Sorry, buddy.
But if you fail, basically every time the puzzle resets. So I had to go back and dial in the solution again. There's no excuse for that.
A really amazing thing this game would have is an undo.
Yes.
When they were making their updated editions and what have you. And I hope the 13th doll has one.
Yes.
After you do so, you see Temple begging Tad to leave with him, but Tad does not trust him because he's dressed up as a Zoltar machine.
Right. And
then we see Hein choking Temple from behind while laughing gleefully.
Right.
Canonically, in the story, this is where Temple dies. This is supposed to happen way later than we see it.
Yeah.
There's a game fac that does all of it, takes all of the information from the Stauf files, which is some newspaper clippings and such that explain the backstory of some of these characters.
Yeah, and also bridges to the sequel too.
Yes. Yep. It takes information from the novel and takes cutscenes, some of which are deleted and were included in that 25th anniversary, some of which are not deleted, but you have to do things in an unusual order. Like, for example, to get a certain scene to play in sequence, you have to go into the maze early but not solve it, because that trips a flag that makes another cutscene show. And if you don't go to the maze early and not solve it, then that cutscene will never show. And it's all consequential to understanding the plot.
Yeah.
So this is seeing Temple get murdered here is a function of it being out of order in some kind of weird way.
That's so weird because Temple ends up being super important later.
It might be a literal cut thing from this. It's really like, I recommend people who are interested in this read that fact.
Because the game sure as shit is not doing anything to make you understand it.
Like, I played the game and felt like I had the broad strokes enough.
Yeah.
You know, and I couldn't, you know, it plays like a murder mystery, and I say that in the least charitable way, because when I've done a murder mystery in real life, they're all like, well, the blue bag went in here at 10:17 a.m. But if the blue bag went in there, then the red bag couldn't be here. Like, they're all logic grids.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to do them through text, and that's excruciating. And this actually has a lot of that energy. It doesn't come across when you're playing the game, but if somebody lays it out and puts it in order, that's what it turns into.
Yeah.
So if you want to actually see all of these individual parts in order, there's somebody like this brave fact maker, put it all in order as an easy to read guide, and it's great.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things that is out of sequence, either out of sequence or deleted.
Yeah.
So
weird.
Yep. So we go to the game room after this point, and Temple's here again. And again, you know, if you're playing this in sequence, it's like, well, didn't I just see this guy get choked?
Yeah, right.
He's demanding to kind of thin air that Stauf show him the secret of real magic.
Yeah,
that's why he's here.
Temple's a stage magician.
Yes.
Is kind of nearing retirement, and his wish is to know how to do the real thing. Yeah.
His wish is to learn how to cut his hair not like a libertarian, because that's stage magicians for you. So in here there's a chessboard that is empty, and this is the the queens that don't get along. You have to place 8 queens on the board so they can't kill each other.
I love this puzzle.
Yeah, me too. I was like way into this. Like, this was really fun. In the universal hint system for this as a thing, one of the hints that they give you, which I really love, is just like, don't try to do this through a pattern.
Right.
And when you learn, like, because of, if you start thinking of this in terms of like fractals, they're going to hit each other.
Yes.
You know, there's no like, 2 over 1 up.
Right.
You know, because that works a little bit, but eventually will fuck you.
Right.
Because of the kind of angle. So
you hem yourself in. Yeah.
Yeah. Really fun.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of like almost like a Sudoku element to this too, because, you know, one of them has to be, they can never share a row or a column.
Yeah.
So you're going to have 1 queen on every row and 1 on every column. That's neat. Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Yeah. You solve it. And then Tad, the boy, appears. Temple says, "Oh, that must be the 7th guest." And then
thanks.
Temple chases him off. Don't go. And your POV character says, "Stop! Don't run." Okay, so you're Tad. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, vested interest in Tadness, and you control and love the Tad. Yeah, because you are und Tad.
Yes.
You're unto Tad.
Be as unto Tad.
Be as unto Tad. When you get down the pool table, you go through the corner pocket and end up in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And some of these transitions that are kind of goofy and impressive visually do get very frustrating.
They do, because like, there are a lot of them that will just deposit you back into the library. There's no way to go back up. So like, well, shit, I guess I have to walk through this mansion. And yes, it's a minor inconvenience, but it's still an inconvenience.
7th guest, I have a fucking exploration heuristic I use in video games, okay? I fully explore a floor before I move on to the next one.
Yes.
With no exceptions. Don't fuck with that.
Yeah, don't funnel me back to a place I've already been. Like, all you're doing is discouraging me from clicking on things.
Yeah. And to be fair, it does tell you what clicking on, like, you know when something's going to be a puzzle. All right? But I want to see those little animations.
Yeah.
But you know it's a puzzle, because we can't get through this whole. I mean, I can't believe we almost forgot to talk about this. The cursor game in this is one of my favorites in video games.
It's very good. That wagging finger, which is like, you're not going to click this.
Yeah. You have this little skeleton hand that goes around that does, either beckons you forward in this like really beautiful animation. Does like, I don't think so. Moon landing? I don't think so. At you. And then when it's a puzzle, it shows you a skull with eyes and this bulging brain.
His brain is being teased.
All of these are wonderful gifts.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me wish that.
Did you say
Twitter
wonderful gifts or wonderful gifts?
GIF.
Okay.
Like, they would be wonderful GIFs, like just repeating. Yeah. It makes me wish that Twitter hadn't cracked down on making animated icons.
Shit.
Because any of these would be great.
Yeah. No, there's one specific thing that I captured video of later to make into an avatar. So.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah.
Super good shit.
So you can go into the kitchen. Here you see a memory of Miss Knox reading the note from Stauf. she hears a knock and then someone yells for help. Okay, fine. And then you can go over and see a memory of Heine fussing over this puzzle in the pantry. This is funny because she says, "Oh, I solved it. This is the soup can puzzle." She solved it by just sorting all the letters out.
Yeah. Yep. Which is pretty funny.
Yeah. So this is an infamous puzzle. I don't know why. Because because I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, that kind of this makes sense. Okay, just how many verbs do I know with a Y in them? Gotcha.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily know this was going to be making a sentence. Yeah. They're spaced out with spacings that suggest words.
Yes.
Right. I knew it wasn't sorting them by. It's actually pretty clever because ordinarily you might think that you need to sort them.
Right.
By making that not an option because that's how they start. It's actually pretty clever. The frustrating thing to me about this is that the words that they use, and there are also other words that would make sense with this and some of the things. So you have to make the sentence by only using Y's as the vowel. And the sentence is, "Shy gypsy slyly spryly tryst by my crypt," which is, I find annoying. In that the sky is ruddy, your fate is bloody way.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. Like, not only, and putting aside that, gypsy's not a great thing to say. Right. They didn't know that in 1993. But I don't know. There's I had another, I can't remember it now, but I had another sentence that made sense that was not this.
Yeah.
And didn't accept it. I think that if this were made now, it would allow you to do other acceptable kind of solutions.
Yeah.
For it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
No big deal or anything. Easy to interface with. I don't think it's a super hard puzzle. I also don't think that it wasn't immediately evident to me either.
Yeah, I got to this and it underwhelmed me specifically because it does have a reputation.
Yeah. So afterwards, we go through this kitchen door. There's a small door by the pantry, and the way is blocked by another door with a set of little grates on the bottom. That's 3x2. But there's no gap in the right, so you have to kind of do a sliding block puzzle, or a really easy sliding block puzzle.
Yeah. When the gap is open, there are spikes that pop up, so you can't just make yourself put the empty space down there and crawl. You just have to there are two of them that make a circular cutout, so you've got to position that to the right so the spikes will block. It's barely just a puzzle, it's a companion to the maze, I guess.
Yeah. And then you get into the maze, which Stauf kind of taunts you the entire time.
Yeah.
It starts off, you're the first living thing to step foot in these dungeons in a while.
Yeah.
This is really obnoxious if you haven't seen the map, taking a screenshot of the map.
Yes. If you think, okay, I can probably just what the dataless heuristic, just always take right turns and it'll get me out. Not necessarily the case. Additionally, different choices will take you down these weird little switchbacks as well.
Yeah. Since you're in first person, it becomes hard to keep your orientation.
It's really tough to orient it. Yeah. And even the map itself, it's hard to keep track of, really. So I ended up taking it and taking the map and translating it into nodes. And then just kind of discerning the right way from there.
Yeah, which turns to make.
Yeah.
Basically at every choice point. Mazes, not my favorite thing in games.
Yeah.
In general, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Once you get down to past it, you go into a crypt. And Stauf says this should be an open and shut case because there are 9 coffins in a grid. 3 of them are open and have skeletons, and you kind of play a little bit like Lights Out.
Yeah. The corners work different. It's not necessarily the corners will activate basically everything in a square. So the 4 coffins that are in that corner, the sides only affect the far rows, the extreme edges, and the center will do the cross that you expect. But yeah, you just got to make sure that you've got to close all of them or open all of them. I forget.
Yeah, I think you open all of them.
Yeah.
But Lights Out-ish. Yeah. No big deal. Once you finish it, you get a scene with Temple protecting Tad from Burden, who turns into a melty snake tongue lady. People are demonizing at a rapid pace. So
at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
Alarming
demonizations are up 200% in the Stauf mansion.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So this starts up section 2. More places are open for you. And so you got to go and check every fucking door. At least in the sequel, they signal this change by having the places you can go have doors that are slightly ajar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is nice.
Yeah. This opens up. You go to the library and you see all the guests who are gathered there. And of course, they are arguing over how to solve this.
What to do to Tad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say we tattoo him.
Yeah. I say, New York City, get a rope.
I say we let him go.
Shut up, Temple.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Edward Knox says, hey, nobody cooperate. It's every one of us for ourselves.
Hey, nobody cooperate is really good. So we can go into this bedroom with cards in it. This has some doors that will drop you into other rooms, but basically you want to beeline to the nightstand, which has playing cards in it. The cards are placed in a pattern, and you can flip over cards if they're in any of the cardinal directions from the original card.
You can skip over flipped cards and spaces, but an unflipped card will block you. So you have to kind of like chart a path. And there are 2 grids that you have to solve. This is fun. I like this.
Yeah, this one's good.
Yeah,
this is good. After you do so, we find out Temple's in that room. He's examining different objects. He admires these chains and then guesses that Stauf's power rests in a pillow.
Yeah, he's grasping at straws.
Yeah, exactly. A woman appears on the bed, turns into a skeleton. It does that move. And then another man in the room screams next to Stauf or next to Temple or what have you.
None of these events are connected to each other, even within a scene.
That's why you got to read that fact. It puts them all in order and explains exactly what's happening and their significance. Jesus. Some of the things are literally people who did not like effects that did not get in green screened in. So there's a section with Temple early on where he gets startled and looks behind him.
Yeah.
And it was because a ghost of Stauf was supposed to appear, but they didn't do it. So there's like a scene where he just goes, oh, and looks behind him and there's nothing there, which is pretty realistic, but like, I guess clown college, man.
I guess it kind of works because like, oh, maybe he's just easily startled. But yeah, nothing is motivated. Literally nothing is motivated in anything.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. When you leave this and you go out into the hallway, you see a scared Eleanor talking to Temple. Temple again reiterates, hey, I want to get real magic. Eleanor says like, her and Edward have gotten into a lot of debt, so we gotta, we're here for money. Okay, more of these.
Just people stating their motivations to each other.
Yes.
I'm Dracula. I like to go suck blood. That's cool. I'm Tarzan. I'm gonna go swing on vines. So, yeah.
You can get into the bathroom. And another library warp. You go down this drain that's full of Black Widow spiders. I'm thinking, cool, this is good and spooky. Nope, you're in the library again.
Back in the library.
Fuck you.
You can almost it almost makes sense that a lot of roads lead back to the library since that's where the hint book is.
Yeah, but give me a way to go back to the place I need to get to.
Yeah, let me do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Give me a portable sink.
Yeah.
That I can crawl down the spider pipe whenever I want, you know, so to speak. That guy dropped out of school because he'd been crawling down the spider pipe too often. But let me do that at will.
Yeah.
Like make it a menu.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this floor is black and white tiles, which of course means chess puzzle.
Right. Yeah. And this, instead of being queens or bishops, you have knights. And you have to swap white for black on, this modified board. There's kind of a single space in the middle. Yeah. And you've got to get them moved around. And this is good. I like knight moves.
I like knight moves. I've been working on them. Pretty much any chess puzzles in this I'm pretty into.
Yeah.
So the shower curtain goes away and you can see Burden breathing and drinking campaign, and then she sinks into the tub as the water drains and she screams from underwater, or we just hear a scream because that keeps happening. I like this little cutscene. This is great. And I don't think we mentioned it, but Burden's a drunk, I think.
Maybe
she's the drunk. Yeah, I think she's
like a stage singer.
Yes, she's an alcoholic. There's like a whole thing about her, like in the Stauf files, about how she's been given to sipping brandy and her friends are worried or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. It's written like the Seventh Guest, so I don't know. Heading on to another bedroom. the coin bedroom here.
Mm-hmm. This is, I think, Dutton's. It's Dutton's room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a champagne bucket you can look at. You can pop the cork. Again, just, windowsill, whatever.
Yep.
The bed has these coins that are laid out on the grid, and it's just the card puzzle again.
Yeah, it's the card puzzle, but swastika.
Yeah, the good one.
Yeah, the good swastika, the swastika that's facing not the bad way. In case
right.
you'll never mix those up.
No, never, and never would you make a bad faith argument about that symbol. Yeah.
And between this low-key swastika and then in the 11th hour, there's a bunch of Confederate flags for some reason.
Yeah.
Really surprised. I was just like, this is real weird. Stauf isn't as charming as I think he is.
Incredibly problematic.
Yeah. Tad pupil.
Jesus.
But anyway, so it's pretty much the card thing. Putting these right next to each other is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to play them right next to each other, but the way you went through it is roughly how I went through it, with like one exception so far.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been following the notes, but basically this is the way they made sense to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious if people had drastically different experiences.
Yeah.
So afterwards, we see Dutton opening up this briefcase full of money, and he starts screaming at his hands in agony.
It seems like they were trying to do like a Midas thing, like he picked up the coins and he started turning into gold or something, but no, and it's just painful money.
Yeah. Just pain money. Yep. Yep. Dire dollars.
Yeah.
You see the Phantom talking about the secret room and walks through this door, and then we hear a scream. So
just somebody on like a morning Zoo Crew soundboard and all the buttons are scream.
Oh, yeah. Boom, boom. Ding, ding, ding.
Sorry, Greta, I didn't mean to wake you up with I tried to scream quiet for you.
Yeah, quiet screams.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can go through this door, which isn't necessarily even a secret door. It's just a door off to the side of the room, and it gets you into a spooky chapel. Mm-hmm. And there's a phantom that's dropped off by a bat when you walk in. Nothing.
Yep. Yeah. Haunted house stuff. There are these colored bricks on the floor, and you need to move. This is a puzzle. You have to get from the bottom left to the top right. There's a pit in the center. Mm-hmm. And I found this very confusing, actually. I had to universal hint system the shit out of the rules of this.
Yeah. It requires observation. And like it would probably be like a third order observation I would make when trying to solve this. Because it's like it's based on time and number of moves, not like direction.
Yes, exactly. So when there's this timing when these blocks will kind of fall, depending on what you've moved to. So 3 after a purple, 2 after a gold, 1 after a blue. And it's determined on what one you're standing on, or determine what color you're standing on when the blocks fall.
Right.
So you're trying to go purple to purple if you can. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just really weird and arbitrary. Mm-hmm. Like not a super well designed puzzle, this one.
No, and especially it's not helped by the poor communication.
Yeah. Yep. No communication. No.
Right. So you can go up to the altar and you can see Stauf telling Dutton, like, hey, the final sacrifice must be brought to me. And then Stauf brought to me alive. And then Stauf gives Dutton what appears to be a short sword, but later it's a dagger.
Yep, he arms him.
Yep.
This will do 1d6 damage. If you look at the organ, a skeleton appears to play it.
That's what I captured video of.
Very, very good. I love it. And this confessional opens up in the laboratory.
Right.
Because he's also a super scientist, as we mentioned.
Right. Which really rubs Temple the wrong way. Like, this isn't magic. It's just demented science. Yeah.
He wanted magic. And then he looks at a book of this, and his hands also, it's bad money, except it's bad book. and hurts his hands.
Yeah, and he screams at them. Yeah, I thought this is where he died, but no, I guess he died when he was strangled.
I could be one of those might be deleted.
Yeah,
I might be getting confused with that because it includes the game includes deleted scenes, and deleted scenes are not included.
Oh, Jesus.
So it is it's a mess.
Yeah.
So
But you can go to the operating table. This is one of my favorite. I mean, obviously MVP is the is the skeleton on the organ. But this one, a phantom appears. He's missing the top of his head, and he reaches down into a bucket of brains to find his brain and put it back in. It is such like 101 level like green screen special effect.
I got no body. Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very the goofiness of this. It's very spooky, scary skeletons in a really good way.
Yeah.
But then you look through the microscope. So this is the one that is the infamous puzzle that I had heard about so much.
Yeah.
And the reason why this is one of those things that it like raises all those interesting kind of questions and issues about designing your game for the future.
Yes.
Like this like Y2K kind of stuff. Because this is the first of a game where you're playing against an AI.
Yeah.
In this. It's very similar to Reversi, where you have blue and green gobs of goo.
Yeah, this is
a gabagoo.
A gabagoo. This game is also called Infection, or Attacks.
Yes.
Attacks is like the arcade game that this is based off of.
And the issue is that the AI is tied to your processor speed.
So it will always pause for a certain, it'll always calculate its move for a certain duration of time. But as processors,
it's like
get
a certain
faster,
number of ticks. Yeah, it's like a certain number of ticks of the game, and as your processor can make it go through more ticks, it's processing more quickly and more completely.
And it's looking for more and more moves ahead.
So it looks effectively makes the perfect move.
Right.
In this, so you have to make the perfect move every time, or you cannot beat this.
Right.
This is a terribly designed puzzle, not just because of that, but like having a puzzle that is, I think that like the Seventh Guest really kind of thrives on being able to bypass portions of it in game and out of game. And the second game makes that very easy to do, which I think I applaud it for. Right. Like you can make your weird little Game Boy Pocket just solve the puzzle for you.
I mean, kinda. I mean, so like in this one, there's only one of these where you're playing against the AI.
And the next one, there's tons.
And like in the it is always one of these AI puzzles like that caps things off. If you ask your little AI assistant to do the next move, there's no guarantee that it's gonna win.
And it doesn't do a good move.
I mean, it will do a good move, but it won't do the right move to win. So, like the puzzle that made me stop playing that game. Thankfully, it was toward the end, so I got to see a lot of this. I was just kind of like, "Fuck this! I'm just going to, go through all the interface tasks of making it do the next move for me," and it still resulted in me losing. And I was like, "Well." Gary said he wasn't going to beat it, so neither am I.
Yeah, give you permission. I did not know that. I thought it would win for you.
No.
That's very bad.
Yes.
So yeah, this sucks.
Yep.
Like they've kind of fixed it, I think, in later versions where it isn't tied to your processor speed.
Yeah,
it's possible to do it, because I did it, and I don't think I'm that great at attacks.
Right.
I didn't play perfect attacks, but I managed to beat it.
They figured out a way to artificially limit the processor speed, but that's why this puzzle is not present in the iOS version, because they couldn't figure out how to do that kind of limiting on iOS, on iPads and such. Yeah. This is the puzzle that you can buy as a standalone game for 99 cents. And it's fun. I like this puzzle quite a bit.
Yeah, I can see it with like properly tuned AI.
Yes.
And
they give you a slider from like simple to complex.
Yeah,
and it has Stauf taunting you as well, which is good.
Yeah, anything with Stauf. Give me more Stauf. Love the Stauf. We can next move into the toy room, which feels like a long time to get to a toy room in this mansion.
I know, right?
Your time to toy room is very high. And the toys' shadows are moving. They're like children wailing for their parents. This is where Stauf has put the spirits of the kids he killed through viruses.
Yes.
Because he's gathering souls for a demon. Right. Spoiler.
Yeah. That's he is trying to appease his master. He's trying to appease the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a puzzle box on the table. And I hate this puzzle, Gary.
This is really frustrating. It doesn't really make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, so it's, you can affect each column and row. When you do, it causes the cards on it to flip. But this is the one where, cause I played this with the 11th hour. So a couple of these puzzles got mixed up. Yeah. This is the one where it pulls something from off the board, right? like it like rotates, like you're supposed to kind of imagine it's almost like a ribbon on each one, but part of the ribbon is off the board.
So picture like a 3x3 grid, and the upper left tile is number 1, then it proceeds across 2, 3. The second row begins 4, 5, 6. The fifth row 7, 8, 9. When you affect one of the tiles, it will flip around, and the one sorry, like picture 1 will move to picture 2, to picture 3, to picture 4, etc., and you increment and decrement them by rows. Either like rows or columns. If it had a static starting position, this would be fine. However, what happens is they're randomized, and there are, I think, roughly like 50% of the configurations you can get in the randomizer are not solvable, because
they do that in the second one as well.
Yeah,
where they do a sliding block puzzle with an abstract pattern. Fuck you. Fuck you, Stauf.
Yeah. So
and Trilobite.
The rules are incredibly complicated, at least in terms of like abstracting it in your head and modeling it. Additionally, you can only affect a whole row or column at once. So like there is an algorithm. It feels weirdly like trying to solve a 3D Rubik's Cube in 2D space.
Yeah, Rubik's Cube was the comparison I was going to make.
Yeah.
A little bit. Really frustrating and dumb. Like, I get that near the end of the game, so they're trying to up the challenge. So they have like the laboratory puzzle and this one. But I don't know.
But just like the random starting spot, like if you can't be assured, if you don't have a way to check before you display the starting configuration to check if it is solvable, don't do it.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, because and like so far everything else has been deterministic aside from the microscope puzzle, and I'm going to blame myself and continue going on this trying to figure it out without restarting it.
Yeah, frustrating, super frustrating. Dislike this puzzle. Afterwards you get this scene with Temple talking to Eleanor, wondering why the doll room would be locked. Eleanor recognizes some of the voices from her childhood. And these dolls contain the spirit, as we mentioned, spirits of the children. There must be one more child coming, the last guest.
Pretty big leap to take.
Temple has figured it out.
Yeah.
Finally. And he's seen the last guest. It must have been Tad.
Ooh. Get that boy.
Tad's about.
Yeah. And so kind of the final puzzle, the last place you need to go to before the end game, or the final set of puzzles rather, is the dollhouse. You examine the dollhouse and then you shrink down and go into the front door. If it wasn't obvious that you were incorporeal before, you get in and a phantom dog barks at you from a toy box.
Yep. Good. Like dog. And if you go into the toy box,
back to the library, guess what?
Yep. And you're pretty far away from the library right now. Yeah. Pretty obnoxious there. There's a puzzle here in this dresser drawer with this 9 alphabet blocks in a grid. Yeah. Where you had to make it spell a word by following the same rules as the flip puzzle, but it's a little bit easier because there are letters. Right. And you know what you're going for at the very least.
However, when I see them in a grid, I think it's going to be crossword rules, and it has to spell valid words up and down as well as side to side. No, you're just spelling a simple
sentence. And that sentence, get boy Tad. Yep. Okay. All right. Yeah, I love to get boy Tad. I love when Tim and Eric consult on these games. John C. Reilly slurring, get boy Tad. Yeah. Boy, yeah. So that has spelled out the goal of getting boy Tad.
Yes.
We hear a kid crying. Is it Tad? And we see what looks like Stauf, and we're moving into the final section here.
Yes, the final section with one of my least favorite things in games, actually.
Yeah, this is rough.
So you walk into the foyer, and you can examine the marble floor, and it turns into a portal to the portrait room. And you hear some people saying, "I've seen this room before. I know it. Strange paintings. Sick."
Yeah, sick. So we're going to the portrait room here.
Yeah.
And you can by clicking, just kind of manhole wise, you can click on the paintings and make them smoke cigarettes. Which I appreciate.
There's a little boy who shows you his vampire fangs. One of the portraits is of Fat Man, is of the composer.
Yeah, George Singer has a cameo in both these games, which I like.
Yeah. But there's a portrait of Stauf, and he gives you the rhyme like, oh, all the king's horses, all the king's men. And this is a 3x3 grid. It is just like the coffin closing puzzle from the crypt, except there's one more state. So it's not just open and closed. There is a regular Stauf, there is a red devil Stauf, and then there's reptilian green devil Stauf.
Yes. Yeah. Comes in 3 flavors: Stauf Dry, Stauf Light, and this is really obnoxious. It's by adding a third state to that kind of, a little bit like lights out thing. Pretty obnoxious. It's not like dimmer switch. That's not the name of the game. It fucks it up.
Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah. I do what I do like when you when you finish this, it kind of looks like a big demon Stauf is pressing out from the backside of the painting to like snap at you. Yeah. That would have impressed me if I played it when it came out.
Scared of Stauf. We can now head into the music room. There's a plant there, and it grows up to the ceiling. And you've got in the notes that this has to be a Maniac Mansion reference. Likely. I read a bunch of interviews from these dudes, and they never mention anything. Right. Like that. But it's kind of weird because, I don't want to say that this was hubristic because, again, it was this ridiculous hit, right? Yeah. But usually when I read interviews from developers, they talk about games they like. Yes. And this just kind of said like Games Magazine and Twin Peaks, but they never reference another video game. Yeah. Contrast with the Doom guys, if you read Masters of Doom, constantly talking about how much they love, playing Nintendo games and arcade games and stuff like that. There's none of that in this. Yeah.
Weird. And it just, I cannot see, I mean, maybe it was an accidental Maniac Mansion reference, but this has my least favorite puzzle. It is ridiculously bad because it's not a fucking puzzle. It is just an attention tax. So you sit down at the piano. Stauf has made himself a Staufway instead of a Steinway. I laughed out loud at that. Everything. Yeah, it's really good. I think it's very funny. Yeah. And so you sit down and you see a key to press and you hear a note, and then Tad says, "Oh, it's just like when I played Follow the Leader." And so it's like Simon, except with 2 octaves worth of input that you can give. Yes. The thing is, it'll play the note, then it'll play, you play the note, and then you play 2 notes. This is an 18 note melody it's having you do. And if you fuck up, it goes back to 1 note. Yeah. So it's not just that you're playing 18 exclamation mark, notes, so summing 1 + 2 + 3, all of that 171 keystrokes that you have to get exactly right. If you fuck up, you're doing it over again. Yes. So not a puzzle. Nope. Just a memory tax. And when I talk about that excessiveness, right, what if this was a 5 note pattern? Maybe not 5, 5 might be a little bit easy, but 9. 9's all right. Yeah. I just ended up writing them down and just kind of doing it. And I did that alarmingly easy. As soon as I remembered what this was or figured out what this was, I never got this far when I was a kid. Right. As soon as I figured out what this was, I immediately was just got out a notepad. Right. And just wrote down the notes because I was like, this is dumb. And it just ended up being this chore, that I did. Yeah. On the Stauf way. For me, I tried doing that. I pulled up an image of the solution, but there's something about, I don't know, I don't visually interpret a keyboard. I do it by feel. So I would just accidentally press a C instead of a B, and guess what? You're fucked. Yeah. So it sucks. What I ended up doing was I cut little strips of Post-it note, and I, on my screen, if there was, if this was a valid key that I could hit, I put it, I attached it there, letting me know, yes, this is in bounds for the key or whatever. Yeah, no good. Yeah, very bad, and not a puzzle. Right. So, by no means does this count as such. Yeah. So very frustrating. I don't know if it's quite my least favorite thing in it. I don't like it. It just ended up being very task-like. It was easy for me to notate, middle C and stuff like that, and just do them in order. It just ended up being boring. Yeah. More than anything. If I had to do it more than once,
I would have been very annoyed.
No, I had to do it multiple times because I just kept making dumb mistakes. And like, I don't know, maybe just restart where you were at, you know?
Yeah.
Don't go back to the beginning.
Make a back button, which would solve so much of this anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so pretty frustrating.
So when you finish this, you get a shockingly violent scene. So Dutton, Tad, James, and Burton appear. Dutton is holding Tad hostage. James pulls Tad away from him, and then Dutton pulls his dagger/short sword, which James then grabs and then stabs Dutton about 9 times very quickly.
We're in the Phantasmagoria zone now.
Yes.
Like, now it is violent.
He ventilates Dutton's chest cavity.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Prior
fucking
to this,
Oz.
it was a skeleton. It was a Halloween decorations exclusively. Now we're in the violent zone. Yeah. Now it's Mortal Kombat fatalities, quite literally, in a minute. So there's this, heading up to the attic, which we're ultimately need to get. There's this door knocker on the attic door, shaped like a demon, with a pentagram for a forehead and all these daggers at intersections. And you have to make, this is like a little, like Chinese checkers.
Yeah. Got to make the jumps and remove all but one of the daggers.
Yeah. Very Cracker Barrel. Mm-hmm. You get up to the attic, but you can't leave because there's this Phantom Cerberus. Good. The door is boarded over. Fine.
Yeah.
And there are the 4 kinds of windows. Any direction you move from a particular type of window sets that window's move.
Yeah. So it's like a little like dollhouse skyscraper kind of thing. Yeah.
So you have to program kind of your directions. Yeah. This is fine. I think it's fine.
Yeah. I like this. So you're just kind of like, well, once I figured out that you were just like it was like programming, I was like, okay, yeah, cool, good. Yeah.
Just fine. Along comes Tad, stumbles into the room. He's distracted by Eleanor's head begging for help from atop a mannequin.
Right.
So again, we're fully in the fatality zone now.
Right.
We're in the Phantasmagoria zone. Heine gets behind Tad and grabs him. Everyone wants Tad. And when you open up this chest in the attic, a skeleton builds itself, points to the door, and then falls apart. So, like, the tonal whiplash here is monumental.
Right. I mean, nowhere near the tonal whiplash of the second game.
No. That's never in any gear for long enough to get anything. You can't get used to it. You're just vibrating. Yeah.
So you go to the back of the attic, and you see Tad is just kind of standing there bouncing to some music that you can't hear. And you hear Heidi murdering somebody. It's not murdering Tad because that happens later. And then you're looking at this and you realize, oh, you're caught in a loop. You are trying to help yourself, Tad, over and over again.
Yes. So what happened in the story of this is that Stauf got these, invited these people who he thought would do shitty because they're tempted by evil, like he was. Knew that a kid would try to sneak in. Like the Tad is constant.
Yes.
And then in extricating Tad's soul, something fucked up.
Right.
And stuck everyone in a loop where their Ghost and Stauf and Tad all replay this night over and over.
Right.
And you, as Tad's ego, is there to try to break the cycle. So he never actually got Tad's soul, because if he did, demons would get what they wanted, and Stauf would become Super Stauf or whatever. So this is you trying to break that cycle because something went wrong with the soul transference, or something like to that effect. Yeah.
So you go into the back of the attic. It's a spooky, broken down room with these 2 windows. Heine brings Tad in for Stauf, who's kind of sitting in this wheelchair, demands her wish, like, oh, I want to be beautiful. So he vomits acid beneath her and she falls through it like a portal.
He literally turns into like Reptile from Mortal Kombat. He goes, what? Smiles and goes, like green screen goo flies out. It's amazing.
Yep.
Like, it's very good. Yeah. And also just like, what a Faustian genius to let somebody finally get their, like what a wishmaster here who, you'll get your wish, like doesn't turn her into a statue.
He doesn't even do like a Freddy Krueger, and they're like, oh, you need some exfoliation.
Yeah. There's nothing. It's just like on one side of the Faustian bargain, or like the wish, you know, because that's essentially what it is. Like the idea being is that like, oh, you'll get what you want, but you don't want it. So you're like, I wish to see no enemies before me. And it's like, oh, you get struck blind, right? Like that kind of thing. Instead, he just spits acid at her.
He's getting impatient. He's got what he wants. He's got the last kid, so he can seal his deal.
Whenever Tad's about, I get impatient. I can't handle Tad exposure.
No.
You know, too much Tad. TMT.
Dynamite.
Dude, it's too much Tad. He's dynamite. So Stauf wraps Tad in this tongue.
In his tongue. Like he reptiles him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pulls him back. And you can't do anything to help him. It's like, well, you're struggling. Like you can't have him. You know, you can't have me.
You can't have me. And I guess just distracting Stauf is all that it takes, because Stauf's phantom turns into a skeleton, and then he falls through this red portal in the floor.
Yep. So now he can hear you because Stauf can see the ego.
Right.
Apparently. And then as a kid, you're like, you saved me. Or Tad, as a Tad. You saved me. It's all been changed now. And then the ego voice goes, forever. So then the game ends.
Yes, the game ends with closing the book on the Seventh Guest of Volume 1. And then we see the credits with photos of the staff, including some of the wackiest haircuts you've ever seen.
Yes. Yes. And that's the Seventh Guest, which, like, boy, in no universe would I recommend it. Judging on the balance, I do kind of like it. There are enough good puzzles and enough fun wackiness. Like the real good wackiness happens with the like goofy skulls and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the just, bad actors talking to each other without charisma stuff is how the game begins.
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to give it a minute.
Yeah.
For the goofiness of the story to actually get good, I think. But once it does, like the Seventh Guest is all right, undeniably important, kind of fun, as a thing, also pretty frustrating. And, there's this weird feeling for something that has all this money put into the visual effects and such, feeling, just borrowing all their puzzles from, classic games things. There's something about it that feels cheap.
Yeah. It feels very chintzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just again, impossible to recommend now, but not without any charm, which is like a good segue to the 11th hour, which is not without any charm, but is somehow so much worse.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a good object lesson because they are so similar, but they are different in ways that like just are not tenable.
Well, I can't take a step. I can't make a move. I can't sing a song. I can't sing a song this minimal groove. I can't get away from the singular facts. I can't take a breath without seeing Mr. Death. I can't take a bath.
So the 11th hour, they started developing it just kind of like right, as the first game was going. Like they recognized like, oh yeah, there are like market forces that are going to draw us here. It was delayed a little bit, but it came out in 1995. Still really close. It was an extremely fast follow as games went, kind of back in the day. Published by the same people, developed by the same people, and like we said, it makes sense to talk about these together because it's pretty illustrative. I'm not sure exactly of what. Maybe we can we can discern.
So one thing I would say like is of exactly how brief the window is for this type of game, like the fact that. The Seventh Guest was considered to be a landmark and won award, accolades. Yeah. Right. Like huge sales, but also critical acclaim.
Right.
The 11th hour didn't get that. The 11th hour is not thought of as particularly good. It is illustrative of how poorly dated this kind of, the Phantasmagoria zone is in terms of like treatment. So kind of spooky skeletons. And stuff dancing and the camp of the first game aged better than the Lorenzo Lamas TV movie kind of aspect of this. Right? Like the hour-long episode of Renegade.
Yep.
This is
fucking Renegade.
So I think it's illustrative of that. Yeah. And then the ways that this is worse as a puzzle game, like as a video game, are very illustrative because it's a way of expanding on the original concepts and the original kind of bounding box in a way that is purely subtractive.
Yeah. And also feels like reactive to some of the initial responses to games that were like this. Yes. An observation that I came across was that the reliance on these adversarial AI puzzles and randomized puzzles, there are a lot more of these here. It feels like they looked at criticisms of Myst or even criticisms of the Seventh Guest and saw like, oh, you can just like look up the solution and be finished with this game in like 5 minutes or whatever, right? Here they said, all right, well, let's make a game that is not walkthroughable. And by hitting by going to access with these riddles and by relying on these randomized puzzles with AI elements, they achieved that kind of. But ultimately,
it's a goal not worth achieving.
No, and left you with an incredibly frustrating product.
Yes, the idea of making your game not walkthroughable is misguided. At its core. I mean,
it feels ridiculously insecure. And it feels like you are just a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes a game valuable.
Yes.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding of value.
Yes. Yeah. Early adventure games and puzzle games oftentimes would make their games very difficult in order to sell hint books or drive a hint line. Like we talked about that before. We talked about adventure games and stuff, and that was kind of an economic reality of things. At some point, because that was feasible and doable, maybe to avoid like accusations of that, this is one way around that.
Right.
Whereas the actual way around it is don't ruin the game for yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to do that, just don't do it. And it's real weird how this ties into like 2019 arguments and stuff too, because there's the arguments like, oh, I can't help myself. And it's like, but the alternatives to making the developer make it so trap you like that has never produced something really good.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like it is always going to be up to you whether you utilize a way to get past a game, kind of no matter what. And the alternative is the developer not providing a way to do that. And it doesn't improve an experience.
No.
And this is a really extreme example of that because this is a really bad game. But the principle was in effect even, again, 25 years ago. So, yeah, it's that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's a misguided goal. Like, did they accomplish it? Yes. Was it worth accomplishing? Not in any universe.
And another thing, so the disintegration of the puzzle of the play and the story in the first game was present, but not necessarily especially jarring. What you are doing as the main character of this game has nothing at all to do with the story that it's telling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. This is, you play a game. This is David Cage. This is you playing Simon while an unrelated movie plays on the screen. Right. This is you playing puzzle games and exploring a mansion to unlock Renegade, the last chapter on WGN. It is just to get those clips.
Right. Ridiculous.
So very ridiculous, very misguided.
We're gonna scoot through this. Like we're gonna talk about the generalities and like none like just the puzzles broadly, but we're gonna talk about the types of puzzles, but there are more of them. There's an extra type they add, which I want to talk about. Yeah. But the individual puzzles we're not going to talk about, and many of them are just straight up repeats with minor variations of things from the Seventh Guest. And none of them are wholly original. All of them are Games Magazine. Right.
The game ostensibly takes place in the modern day. Many decades after the events of the first game. You play as a character named Carl Denning, a real piece of shit. Who is a television host who is searching for his missing producer, Robin Morales. She ventured into the Stauf mansion. You are part of like a real life ghost stories, like unsolved mysteries.
Yeah. It's like Mysteries Unsolved or something like that.
Mysteries Unsolved.
Or Case Unsolved.
I'm into that trope.
Yep.
In Resident Evil 7 or in Bloodlines, like the finding a real haunted house. when you do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
But your partner's more of an investigative reporter.
Yeah,
Actually,
she's not necessarily a producer.
No, she's a gumshoe.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The gameplay is identical to the previous game. You're exploring the rooms, you're solving these puzzles. The new thing that stands as an impediment to you, you're not just solving the puzzles that are presented, you are being texted these riddles from Stauf. These word puzzles
on your game book.
Yeah.
And so that's new. I love the game book.
Oh yeah.
Like I wish I want one of these things in real, like this was based on real like palm top PCs.
Yeah.
At the time, like the kind of stuff that like Lazy Game reviews, like, reviews from time to time.
Yeah.
Pretty great looking. Like I would love to have one of these.
Yeah. These riddles suck. So picture us, anything bad we've ever said about the Riddler puzzles in the Batman Arkham Asylum games. It's that.
It's so in between, you kind of have a steady stream of these things. They give you a phrase, kind of like a crossword clue, and you're supposed to find an object in the world.
Right.
There's no penalty for getting it wrong. You just get taunted a little bit. But you're supposed to find these things. Now, the way these work as puzzles, in the Riddler puzzles in Batman, sometimes they were just like dumb little physics puzzles.
Yeah.
But when they did this, when they referred to a thing in the room, it was, what walks on 2 legs in the morning, 3 legs in the afternoon, or, it was that kind of thing. And then you would find an example of what it meant. This introduces, not always, but introduces anagrams.
The vast majority of them rely on anagrams.
Yes, which apparently is a way that crossword puzzles happen in the UK.
Cryptic crosswords.
Cryptic crosswords. Once you introduce an anagram to something, nothing means anything. Like it's all, in the 60s Batman show where like Batman would solve things, like the Riddler would say, go to my house, Batman, and Batman would go house, souffle, souffle, Gotham School of Cooking. Methamphetamines, Breaking Bad on DVD. Let's go. That would happen in that show.
Yeah.
That's what they want you to do in this.
Yes.
Like it is the lateral thinking involved. I hesitate to call it thinking. Like I don't even really I find these very frustrating. I know that I am discounting a thing that people do. Right? Like cryptic crosswords are a thing.
I am susceptible. I'm susceptible to a certain flavor of this. Like I can look at a nonsense sentence and say, "Oh, that anagrams to something," and then not feel like doing the work to figure it out.
It's the anagram to it. Even then, you sometimes have to do the extra level of what's another word for this? So
it brings in so it's anagrams, synonyms, and then there are also some that are just straight up encoded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just horseshit.
Yep.
Like I just feel like if you have a puzzle, right, and like the idea is if this is like a crossword, and it's like, okay, I need to know what they're referring to, and I know my I have my data set of possible answers. In a crossword, it's the puzzles the words you've already solved and the length of the word. Here it is the number of objects in this mansion, which is also a problem. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But like you have your constrained data set of responses. It's like, okay, I have to answer that question. Once you introduce anagrams to something, though,
nothing means anything. Yeah.
An alarming number of words that have multiple anagrams. And this is so interpretive as to it being very easy to find things that should make sense.
Yeah.
That don't. Like Doug brought up in the Slack, he says like every time, if the clue is about time, you click on every clock in the mansion.
Yeah.
Like that's true because it might be about time. It might be about a mite. A mite means a bug. A bug means to bother. Bother sounds like brother. It might be a family portrait. Like it's all shit like that. And
well, it even gets down to like particular breeds of dogs or kinds of flowers too. So you'll find the painting, but also need to like find the painting that has that particular dog in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very bad.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there are people who enjoy, I guess, this is a thing. People like cryptic crosswords. People do them. I do not get it and think it is very bad. Well, and maybe the real version of it's a little bit better because part of the problem here is that you have to physically do the interface task of moving around to this mansion, and it requires a few laps around the mansion to have an idea of what your data set even is.
The version of this that I like is the one that's in Callahan's Crosstime Saloon. You know, where it is the anagrams, not the anagrams. It is the synonyms and the homophones, right?
Yes.
That's what I enjoy. The interface tax here is very bad. Additionally, the noise, just the object noise. You know,
yes.
the result of that is everything in the mansion is clickable and zoom inable. Sometimes you're going to get cool animations like the bug demon coming out of the toothpaste tube, right?
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah.
You know, the skeleton screaming in the bathtub full of blood. Into it. Less into, you know, at the very least, like everything, like imagine if they had added the library warps to this, where you're clicking on the wrong riddle and it puts you in a room.
Yeah.
I just think once you add, like, an anagram is its own puzzle. Once you start combining them with things, it just feels like it makes too many things possible.
Yeah.
You know, like you can eventually get it. I'm not saying it's ungettable.
Yeah.
But
I pulled an example that felt especially egregious, but one of the clues is just unreasonable reason. Okay, well, what'll that do? You have to break it into synonyms. So a synonym for unreasonable, crazy, loco. Okay, loco, a reason. What's a reason for something? Like a motive, locomotive. So you got to go find a train to click on.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that is pulled from the actual game. Might be intuitive for some people. I would, you know, defy you to find somebody who would do that and who would say, yes, that makes perfect sense to me in good faith.
And that level of like lateral thinking can also be added to an anagram.
Yes.
So like it doesn't work for the specific one, but like this could be unreasonable, could then anagram to something which you then have to, or anagram to multiple things. Yeah. Which then you need to find all of the synonyms for. You know?
Additionally, so I like the idea of maybe introducing some variety, so it isn't just all logic puzzles, which, you know, a lot of the puzzles in Seventh Guest are. The dose makes the poison. So this game is broken down into 4 chapters. Each chapter has like 4 or 5 puzzles in it. Some of these chapters, you're doing like 10 of these little riddles.
Yeah.
Just following this fetch quest FedEx loop from object to object.
Yeah. Excruciating. I got very mad at these, like, just like, because I would try to do it, I would find something that makes sense. It wasn't the right thing. And for reasons that felt arbitrary, I'd look up the solution, and every single time I was furious. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine taking this seriously and trying to get through it. Like, I went and watched a walkthrough for part of it after I gave up. And that person kind of like would talk, he knew the answers, right, and he would kind of talk his way through the thought process, and sometimes it made sense, like the clue would have art in it, so it's like, oh, we have to go to the gallery. Sometimes it would not at all, though. It just have a word, you'd be like, let's go to the map, and I'm like, why did you know to go to the map? Nothing in that word suggests a fucking map. There's not an A and M, you know, an A and M and a P in there. Like, map, amp, amplifier, you know, loudspeaker. It's Teddy Roosevelt. Right. You know, like, just, man, do I hate it. I just such horseshit. Yeah. Made me very mad. The other thing is the actual puzzles, the shitty puzzles, a lot more of them rely on color. Yeah. In a way that I could not tell the difference between them. Like, I just, you know, a lot of them are these adversarial things, as we mentioned, where Stauf plays against you, and his moves would have like a tint to them. Like, there's one where you are moving these abstract shapes on a painting. His moves would have this like green tint to them that I could not perceive. Just kind of period. And it's like, well, you know, I'm not necessarily blaming them in 1995 for not knowing that, but it did just add to friction in a game that already had a lot of friction. Yeah.
I mean, they must have known what they were doing, because there was one puzzle that was just, is this red or green?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. You know, like, I wasn't invented after 1995, you know? No. The story in this is the other thing that, you know, we talked about. You can learn how well this aged. It is wildly different. Right. Henry Stauf is still the principal antagonist, but it is told in a, you know, an FMV made for TV movie, kind of Phantasmagoria 2 style, through a little bit more than an hour of FMV footage that stitches together into a movie showing the setup of the game. So after you solve a puzzle, you can pull out your PDA and watch a clip that lasts anywhere from like a minute to like 7 seconds. like in tiny little bits, and it is very hard to coherently follow without reviewing every single, every few puzzles.
Yeah, at the end of each chapter, when you watch the clip, it will just show you like the 20-minute part of the story that it wanted to show you. And it is like made for TV movie. You know, it is super Twin Peaks. Like you're in the small town. Like Robin goes to a diner and talks to somebody who has a dark and troubled past. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that scene when we get to it, because I wanted it to go on forever. Like I wanted her to tease her about her big city choices for because it already goes on for about like 10 minutes, and I wanted to just continually keep going.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the plot. That's mostly what we're going to talk about here.
Yeah.
Kind of high points, and some of the visuals are pretty fun. There's a soup scene that is a fave. But not talking about the puzzles, the game itself really, really felt like it was the height of, the perspective of this is that it is the height of ambition.
Yeah.
So there's 3 endings that you have a choice there, and the game itself says it is a choice that will make you look inside yourself.
Yeah. They've got a real high opinion of it.
Drastically overestimating how much I'm going to be invested in these characters in the story.
Right. Yeah. This game reviewed very poorly, kind of making some similar complaints to what we have said. It's very, way too similar to the Seventh Guest, but different in ways that make it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So shipped 500,000 copies, but sold 300,000. So probably made money.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, but not, and it didn't sink the company. Like Clandestine Destiny still came out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was not after the Seventh Guest. They maybe expected it to be huge.
Yeah, they couldn't rebottle the lightning. So let's get into it.
Yep. The introduction to this plays with kind of shockingly bad audio. It's like TV played through one of these postage stamp FMV things.
Yeah.
Like I was surprised by how bad this sounded to me.
Yeah.
But a man is watching this news reporter.
Yeah. This is Carl. And he is looking at this newscast about this producer who went missing, Robin. Carl sent her to go and check out this house, check out the Stauf mansion. Mm-hmm. And here's the doorbell. He gets up, and it's a package being delivered to him. It is the PDA thingy. It is the game book. And he looks at it. There's a video of Robin begging Carl for help. Saying like, hey, please come get me out of the mansion.
Yep. So he gets on his motorcycle and rides to cool music and stuff. Again, very Lorenzo Lamas. And it flashes back to him and Robin hitting on each other, boning down, and then breaking up. Yeah, so this is an X.
Yeah.
And he's grotesque.
Yeah.
Carl is a very bad person.
Yeah. Like she's concerned that people think that she's concerned that people think that she slept her way to the top. And he says, oh, well, you did, didn't you? And then says, oh, I hope that if I send you to Harley, you'll become one of those missing people. Monstrous.
Cool. Yeah. Cool.
Protagonist material.
Yeah, protagonist material right there. This takes place in a town called Harley on Hudson, which I've heard about, and this game series ends up being the primary Harley on Hudson thing I know about. Yeah. It's very funny. I just think of that whenever I think of that town. It's just from now on, it's like, oh, that's where the Stauf murders were. So you start off the way it's structured is you start with the 7th hour and you're moving towards the 11th hour.
Right.
So after you solve your puzzles and riddles, you get to go through the hour.
Right.
So the first hour has kind of the following movie content, kind of what happens.
Yeah.
The diner thing is the thing I wanted to talk about, where she goes to the diner, and the idea here is that this is a small town diner, and she's a big city lady.
Yeah.
So she does it. She's like, "Do you guys have anything like an oat bran muffin?" And the waitress is like,
we don't eat much oat bran around here.
Yeah, we don't have that. We have chocolate donuts. And then she goes, how about a San Pellegrino.
No, she says, how about a Perrier?
Yeah. And then the chef, so they're just dunking on her for ordering things they don't have.
Yeah.
But I really wanted it to keep going because they're all being really cruel to her for no reason. Because she tried to order a bran muffin
at our diner.
Yeah, a bran muffin is not fancy. Like, why wasn't this a croissant or sushi or something like that? Like, a bran muffin is not. I guess like that was when that was considered super healthy.
Yeah, I guess.
I want to have shit's good. I'm a health guy. Hey, look at this idiot who wants to shit good.
My shit's late. Can you?
Yeah, can I get a bran muffin? What a fucking moron!
You piece of shit.
Yeah, why get clogged like the rest of us? Eat chocolate donuts so you can't shit at all. That's what we do in Harley. Make a dam the coffee can't get out of.
So yeah. So after this razzing, Robin asked this waitress Eileen, saying like, "Hey, you had to run in at the Stauf mansion, didn't you?" And the movie is very very actively drawing our attention to the fact that she has this prosthetic hand, and this causes Eileen to clam up.
90% of this movie is asking about how this lady lost her hand. Right. It's like fucking. God, what is that? The game? Like, do you remember the Night of the Storm? Do you know where the sailors hang out? What am I thinking of?
You're thinking of Shenmue. Yeah,
Shenmue. It's like Shenmue. Like you just say the same things over and over and over to multiple different people.
Yeah. there's a redheaded woman named Marie who's doing crimes with a hapless buffoon named Chuck. We got Robin who meets the chief of police.
Yeah, this guy.
They hit it off.
How is this not like Eric Estrada?
Yeah, no,
acting. Like it feels like they like get us your most Eric Estrada person that's not Eric Estrada.
Get me an Eric Estrada type.
Yeah, give me the non-union, well, not Mexican equivalent. Yeah. Give me the non-union American equivalent of Eric Estrada.
Can I get an Anglo Estrada? Por favor.
Anglo Estrada, por favor. One Anglo Estrada, please. It is very and he's very bad. She's in a field examining a bloody rock. The police chief stops her, and there's all this back and forth about how he's like, "Oh, you're the chief? That's impressive." Well, not really. There's just two guys, and we're both co-chiefs. And I'm like, you guys don't get to just decide to be co-chiefs. I'm pretty sure that's not how like anything works. Yeah, like
we share a badge.
I get on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Like it is, it's very goofy, and there's a lot of back and forth. Like this actor was like finally a role I can chew on. Like I need to know the motivations of Jim, the police chief. I need to really inhabit this role.
Yeah. So he doesn't believe in the Stauf stuff, and when Robin leaves, we see a ghostly face appear on the rock.
I love that rock. Yeah. So she's going to go to the doctor because they're trying to find out what this hand. It's like, well, this doctor worked on the hand.
Right. Yeah. Then it cuts to Robin in the basement. Carl is shouting through the PD at her, and like saves her from a flipper reaching up out of a pool of acid.
There's one of these scenes where is this where she's sitting on the stairs?
Yeah.
Because it looks like her legs fall off.
Yeah.
Like it's just like bodily as one piece, like they're mannequin legs. Like the resolution and size and just everything being shot when it's extremely dark.
Yeah.
Just make it very hard to tell what's going on.
Yeah. So all of this looks different than the Seventh Guest. Even the stuff in the mansion, like they do have close-ups and they've got master scene and stuff like that. Like this is shot like a piece of media you've ever seen before. But there's still something like that where the flipper comes up and like I have no idea what's going on because it's too distant and too low res.
Yeah. Well-lit dungeons, please.
Yeah. The puzzles in this first part are pretty basic. Like there's a chess puzzle with the knights, same thing as before. You've got like a color sorting thing. The cash register puzzle, I like that a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, where you're adding adding the same number to one side and subtracting the same number from the other.
You have to have symmetry and have the keys be symmetrical as well.
Yes, yeah.
On the thing, so it's like this double symmetry thing. That's not so bad.
Yep, and fuck the mousetrap puzzle. Again, random AI stuff, no good.
Yep. And it takes forever to watch the mouse move.
Yes.
Towards the victory hole, as you have in the notes.
Yep.
So this moves us into the 8th hour. where there are a series of puzzles, but really, specifically, this is around when I quit playing, but I did get to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Where you go into the gory bathtub full of blood with a skeleton bathing in it, which doesn't look like it's like this little like missive from the last game. I love it. Like I was just like, oh shit, there's like a bloody rubber duck across the way. I'm like, this is good. This is good to me, actually.
This is also where you find the toothpaste demon.
Yeah, toothpaste demon is really good. Like these guys are great. Like this is a good room in the 11th hour.
Yep. One of the puzzles here is especially egregious. It is a sliding tile puzzle with a mirror, and you're trying to make it so the blotches line up.
Yeah, it's an abstract puzzle.
Fuck that.
Like not knowing the picture. Like you can screenshot the picture when you first get to it before it scrambles.
Yeah.
So you know what you're getting. This is one of them that 50% of the time, because the missing tile is randomized.
Oh yeah.
This is another one where 50% of the time it was unsolvable.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, according to internet research.
Ugh.
So yeah, they had not learned their lesson.
Bad.
Because the first one hadn't come out yet.
No.
Maybe. So yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, let's talk about the story for this because it is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep. Here it comes. So you go to the doctor's office to talk to the doctor about Eileen's wound in kind of a weird, big, empty room.
Yeah.
Have this conversation. It's very strange.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor says, the wound is a bloody mess, but everyone knows it's a dog. And then she's like, really? He's like, well, maybe it wasn't a dog bite. Why are people covering up the story?
Yeah.
The doctor mentions a girl named Samantha was in the mansion as well.
Oh, yeah. We forgot to mention all of this is being watched over by a woman in a wheelchair who has got a computer that sees everything through the interface of the seventh.
It's Oracle from Batman.
Yes.
Yep. So.
Yeah. No. So like, hey, somebody else is there. Samantha. Cut to Robin and Chuck. Marie and Chuck making out by the dam. And she so in the first makeout scene, Marie bit him on the neck. In this one, she pulls out a straight razor and holds it to his neck.
It's very intense blood play. Yeah. Like I get that there are people who are into blood play and cutting and stuff and sex. I get that as I don't relate to it.
Yeah.
But I understand it is a thing.
Yeah.
But going from a biting, which I feel like good sex should have some biting in it.
Yeah.
To a straight razor.
Yeah.
Is just a lot.
A loaded gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to shoot your tendon as foreplay, and then I'm going to move up to the kneecap for the right when you fucking splooge,
Yeah.
Right when your hog spits, I'm going to shoot you in the kneecap, Chuck.
Hey, Gary, can you never say when your hog spits?
I can't promise that.
Okay. What if that's the password to get you out of a chamber that's filling with that?
I said I would never say it. I gave up my hog spitting ways.
Oh, Jesus. But yeah, Eileen confronts Marie about this,
What if I had said squeal? Is squeal better?
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's worse. But anyway.
Anyway. Eileen is, confronting Marie about, messing around with Chuck because Chuck's married. She might get a reputation. Marie's just a real bad seed, quite literally. It's ridiculous because Eileen and Marie look exactly the same age. It's
very weird. It's bad casting.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw that a lot in 90s.
Yeah.
Shitty. Yeah. So later at the dam, Robin gets spooked by something in the water, runs to the police chief's house, where they go do more fun back and forth, and he gives her a pair of boots.
Yeah.
She gets a quest item. Carl spots this bald man reading Marquis de Sade in the library.
So some of these characters that Carl sees in the mansion are supposed to be characters from the first game.
Yes.
I cannot recognize anybody.
No, I don't think they're not same actors or anything.
Yeah.
Or if they are, you can't tell.
Right. Yeah, but saying yes, I'm just admiring the work that the Marquis is doing. And then a woman in a leather BDSM dress comes out. She's holding a tray and she's got a dog on a chain.
Yes, very good so far.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, so the Dom looks down and tells the dog to speak. And so instead of barking, the dog heads morphs into that of a bald man. And goes, oh, like in a man's voice. And then she turns into a reptile devil woman.
Yep.
I'm into it. It's so good.
This is good to me.
This is good to me.
Yeah, I am into it. And Chuck murders somebody in a field. Chuck is a bad seed.
Yes.
And that's how we got through there. There's that, we kind of talked about the puzzles are worth talking about in that section. Moves on to the 9th hour. There are more puzzles. This is where I stopped playing the game.
Okay.
I watched cutscenes, but I was like, I can't force my way through these color puzzles anymore, and I hate these riddles too much.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Samantha, who we talked about, is navigating the house by playing the 7th guest, which I think is kind of clever. And
you find copies of the 7th guest like scattered over the mansion.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the idea
that
Stauf is in the real world and he's made this game because games are toys and etc.
Exactly. I'm into it. Like, I wish that, I wish Stauf was real. So there, I said it. I've been to get it all episode. There it is. So it knocks on the door. Robin's shown up to talk to us about Samantha's experience at the Stauf mansion, and Samantha is resisting. She doesn't want to do it.
Right. Cut to Carl. He's gotten into the attic and he finds a ghost of a woman asking where Eileen is. This is a young Samantha.
Yes.
Yeah. Elsewhere, Chuck unloads the body from the trunk and carries it to the Stauf mansion. So Marie is linked to Stauf, and she is getting Carl to go and do these heinous things, bring in meat and such.
Yes, to Stauf. Yes. Samantha eventually goes to Robin's hotel and relents and starts telling the truth of what happened in the night. She and Eileen went to the house to find Peter and Charlie, these boys who had disappeared. And then, here's the part where it's like, okay, Phantasm. Okay. Where Samantha and Eileen say that they were sexually assaulted by the house.
Yes.
Stauf is merged with the house. He's a house Stauf. And they sexually assaulted them and got them pregnant. So what is this, Fear 3?
Yeah.
What is happening with this?
And it's delivered just with no, so in the previous game, we were talking about, spooky skeletons and bathtubs or what have you. Here we've got, we've got supernatural sexual assault and botched abortions.
Yes, it is up to the NC-17 level quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it was just, throwing the word rape around was a lot more of a thing.
Yeah.
Obviously in the mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But this is still it's not thrown around. It's still, this is played for pathos.
Yeah, this is meant as high drama. And I'm not saying that they should have made it goofy. No.
Right? I don't know. They shouldn't have done it at all. There's not really a way forward for this.
No.
It's this weird thing where it's just really misguided. And if you wanted to have the house be a creature that's merged with Stauf or something like that,
mm-hmm.
and got her pregnant, I would have just made it an immaculate conception.
Yep.
If that needed to happen for the plot, I understand
mm-hmm.
this is edgier.
Yeah.
But boy, does it just
it would have aged better.
It would have aged better. It just makes it this is too mechanical and weird.
Mm-hmm.
And just there's no way this would have worked.
Yeah.
It's just very fucking weird.
Yeah.
And not good, and just really jarring too, because
mm-hmm.
even in this game, things have been goofier than this.
Yes.
It's been more serious, but it's not this serious.
Yeah. No.
So,
but yeah, they both got pregnant as a result of this. Samantha.
And just the adultness of it. Samantha got her abortion in a back alley, which is why she's in a wheelchair.
Yeah. There was
she's I would have rather died. I'm happy to never walk again rather than have that house's baby.
Yes. Rather than to have given birth to Marie.
Yeah. So it's not only is it about, is it bringing in sexual assault, which is very adult. It's hey kids, in the sequel to The Seventh Guest.
Yeah.
Remember Stauf, who's evil, rich and mean or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In the sequel, there's a botched abortion subplot.
Yep.
That took away a woman's ability to walk. What the fuck? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah.
I don't think you get botched abortions in fiction,
in video game fiction.
Yeah, video game fiction, regular fiction. You don't get regular abortions very often in video games.
Yeah.
Jesus
Christ. Yeah. But so Marie, the redheaded woman who's telling Chuck to go kill people, is the offspring of the house Stauf.
Yeah, House Stauf.
Yeah.
And she's evil because her dad is House Stauf.
Yes. So back in the house, Carl's walking around. He thinks it stinks. Gosh, this house stinks.
Yeah.
And Stauf chimes in yes, just like the dead raccoon your dad found.
Yeah, I felt like this was him. It was kind of like a Pennywise move
A little bit
to like remind him of like his childhood. You know, and know something about his childhood.
And Stauf does that like a lot to Robin later on.
Yeah,
it's kind of his move is to get into their head. Burden kind of like beckons him into her bedroom to seduce him, saying like, "Oh, do you have a part in my play?" But then she fades away into film grain.
Yeah. Spooky ghost sex.
Yeah.
Robin goes back to Eileen and confronts her with Samantha's story. Eileen still denies it and tells Robin to investigate the house for herself.
Right.
Robin's at the diner and she hears this kind of the setup.
Right.
There.
So knowing, yes, a new victim is coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here it is very clear where you stop playing the puzzles. Because you end mid-sentence. Like in the 10th hour, you end mid-sentence. It goes like Bishop's puzzle, furniture puzzle, trilobite game, colon, and then nothing. So that's where you stopped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the part that made me stop. So in the 10th hour, you've got the trilobite game. You go into the dining room. There's another cake there that's shaped like a trilobite. It is an expanded grid Connect 4 against a computer that always makes the perfect move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Big no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Big no thanks.
Yeah.
Marie tells, so in the movie, Marie tells Chuck to murder Robin.
Mm-hmm.
He agrees because he's afraid of Stauf. He goes to Robin's hotel room and stabs the police chief instead. This is a really goofy scene where there's like him like wrapping him up in a sheet.
Yep.
And stuff and kind of trying to hide him and everything. It's really goofy.
Mm-hmm.
This is why Robin's in the shower. So Robin, of course, fucked the police chief.
Yeah.
Because, of course she did. So he gathers the chief and all his things and leaves. Chuck goes to the house. He's failed Stauf.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my favorite scene in the game. And it's after the right after the botched abortion dialogue, right? Like this is tonally like when I said it's vibrating, like it is switching back and forth between tones so quickly that you never establish one.
No.
Because there's a ghostly woman in Stauf in the kitchen and a skeleton in a soup made of blood. And they start making puns about cooking Chuck alive.
Yeah, how about a Chuck roast? And then somebody tries to one up and say, how about a Chuck steak? Like you're just saying the same thing. It's all beef.
Yeah.
If I said, oh, they're going to turn him into a Chuck roast, and then you said, or a Chuck steak, I'd say, Gary, you didn't add anything.
Propane mania. It wouldn't even be that, right? I think I don't know if he says Chuck steak. I think he might say ground Chuck.
Okay.
Which I think that's
they do all three of them.
And then the soup comes in. The soup has a vote.
The soup reveals
2/3 of a vote.
The soup reveals itself. Like the soup is just a big boiling cauldron, and then just the skull appears out of it, made of the blood soup, and says, "Chuck him into the soup."
You love it. Like it is the fact that the soup American gets a say in this. I'm really, really into. Like, when this and it is so all over the fucking place, man. It is, because I think of Stauf as this like kind of Harlequin figure making these jokes and stuff, and of course, like a Harlequin figure making a soup, you might make a Harlequin soup. It makes sense to me, but like I just the other stuff is the stuff that doesn't fit. I wish this whole thing was these kind of production values, but it was all these like dumbass puns and shit.
Just and
CGI soups.
Just cut the botched abortions and then give me more soup.
It's the 13th soup.
Yeah,
make the sequel more about soup.
I don't want a cup of this soup. I want a bowl.
Yeah, give me a bread bowl of this fucking soup.
Yeah, just the skeleton face. Chuck him into the soup.
And also, that's very self-serving of the soup. Like I like how he's voting. He's like self-advocating, which I really like, because if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else is going to.
Right.
And I learned that from soup. Such a miracle scene, and if people don't watch anything from this, like please watch that. It's really good. If you just put in like 11th hour soup, I bet you it shows up. So it's not just an Italian funeral tradition anymore.
Anyway, Robin has gotten into the house. This is before Carl had gotten here. All of this is just disconnected flashback. She's wandering the house. Samantha is saying like, "Oh no, don't do it. Don't go in." And Stauf is kind of tormenting Robin like, "Oh, I know you're afraid of cats, so I'm going to show you this bobcat running after you." The house has got her.
Yeah, an advanced form of a cat. We've now moved on to the 11th hour.
Mm-hmm.
In Knox's room, this well-dressed man taunts Carl before his head explodes.
It is the cheapest. Like, it makes scanners look like fucking Inception.
Like, yeah, it's very Tim and Eric.
Yeah. Yeah. Robin again is wandering around. She picks up a devilish doll. It picks up a doll, and it grows like devil fangs and stuff, and talks to her. But then Stauf himself appears and makes an offer, saying like, "Hey, I used to be a man. I built this house, but the house, needs to be, and in order for the house to be, it needs to eat. So I've been bringing people in. All these murders have been me feeding bodies and souls so that house can sustain itself."
Yes.
I'm going to make you an offer. Do you want power? Everybody wants something, and eventually settles on offering her her own television network. Samantha tries to get Carl to interrupt this, so now we're caught up, saying like, "Hey, interrupt her." I love the power move. Stauf says, "Ignore that. That's an illusion."
Yeah,
as Carl's yelling.
That's actually very great.
Yeah,
because his house, nothing's what it seems in here. That's very clever.
Yeah,
super good. So that's why Samantha sent Carl the game book,
right?
Thinking he could defeat House. You do a final versus game of Go in the bathroom of a dollhouse. Cool. Carl goes to Temple's room. Remember Temple? Mm-hmm. Stauf appears for the let's make a real deal. Yep. So in this, he makes a choice. He pays to see what's behind door number 2. Mm-hmm. It's a big TV screen with Marie on it.
With Samantha.
Samantha, sorry.
Yeah.
He pays to see door number 1. That's Marie, offered up sexually. So Marie would fuck him.
Yeah, it's like the demon lady. Anytime, anywhere you want.
Yep.
It's like anywhere, any place. Okay.
Yeah, any demon sex slave you want. Like you will get HJs in a theater.
Yeah.
No problem. Door number 3 has Robin.
Yeah.
Each of them make their case on why you should choose them. Right. And this is the thing that will make you look inside yourself.
Yes. It is
choosing which girl to have be your prize.
Yeah. Cool. Thumbs up.
Yeah, cool.
And we should say again, tonally vibrating. Like when we say, it's like, let's make a real deal. Stauf comes out and he calls himself Monty Stauf, and like it got the graphics and the game show theme song playing over it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fake Let's Make a Deal. Yeah. And not everyone knows Let's Make a Deal because it's an old game show. And I would hazard not everyone knows Let's Make a Deal in 1995 either. But it's like the what's behind door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3.
Yeah.
That classic kind of trope. Mm-hmm. So 3 endings depending on which woman you choose to be your slave, which one you decide to save, because this is aged really well.
Yep.
And this is fucking amazing. So you choose Marie, you choose the demon sex slave.
if you choose the demon, okay.
Yes. You go and you start to have sex with the demon.
And like it's extended kissing, but she positions herself on top of him. The noises make it sound like there's insertion.
Yeah, it's NC-17. It's adult. And then while you're fucking Marie, the demon, she turns into Stauf and is noisily eating ribs. While going back and forth between Marie and Stauf, and then the final Lovecraft scare line is the ribs are Carl's. Yep. So you fuck the Stauf Marie while it eats your ribs.
Yep.
So, okay.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Go home.
Try again. Can you imagine if you really bought into this, like, this will tell you something about yourself? And then you are trying to interpret what this meant about you.
It's so obviously the bad choice too. Like,
well, it just means you're bad. But then, like, trying to figure out the symbolism, or like what this like reflects on your personality.
Yeah,
it's very fucking like untoward. Dislike.
Yeah. So that like that is the schmuck ending. The bad ending is if you if you choose Robin, the person who you've been here to save the entire time. Well, she already said yes. She accepted the deal from Stauf. And so, you go and you kiss, you get married off screen. This is a very short ending. And then sometime later in a mirror of the opening scene, Robin is watching a newscast. Carl's body was found in the Hudson River. He went missing during their honeymoon, and Robin is the famous, renowned head of the Stauf broadcasting system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the bad ending. but maybe you pick it because of feeling romantic about your former relationship or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then the good ending is the Samantha ending, where you touch Samantha's hand on the screen and he appears at her house. And she explains she's too late to save Robin, but the house burns down.
Yeah.
On the screen.
Yeah, and that's the 11th hour. What a baffling fucking video game.
Yeah, baffling and bad. And also, I mean, I was, not invested in the Seventh Guest lore.
Nope.
But that was about gathering children's souls for a demon, not about a sentient house.
Right.
I mean, I get that like the house came from demon blueprints, so it's got something spooky going on.
Yeah.
But this sentient house angle is really played up in a way I do not care for.
Yeah, and just so you being reborn corporeally as Marie and shapeshifting back and forth. Yeah, no, and just the tonal whiplash. Like, I don't know. There's some joy to be had in that, maybe.
Yeah,
like just in how ridiculous it is, but just it is so profoundly misguided.
Yeah, really, really bad.
Yeah,
and I wish that it had just been. Like, if there had not been the house getting them pregnant or anything like that, what if it was just Stauf?
Yeah.
And then what if it wasn't, that and stuff? Because some of the goofy, when this plays for comedy, when it plays big, I find a lot of joy in it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the let's make a real deal set thing, stuff like that. I don't care for the light treatment of sex assault.
Yeah.
And the weird serious drama bits. Just do the goofy over the topness and don't take it quite so self-serious, and that would be pleasurable.
Yeah.
While never being good. It's just it's real fucked up, and the play of it is excruciating. Yeah. Like, it's really bad. It plays so much worse. Yeah. So
don't care for it.
Don't care for it. Yeah. Bummer. Fun episode. Bad games.
Chuck them in the soup.
One that's slightly better than the other one, but don't play either of them. And yeah. So
yep, YouTube exists. You can see the highlights.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
And if you and Seventh Guest on iOS, possibly worth your time.
Yeah,
they're more curiosity. Good shirt. So.
Yeah, I'm curious about the 13th doll, but I was playing this and I really, it just made me want to play a Leighton game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which we should do one of those for the show at some point.
Yeah.
Because it would be similar in structure. Like, we didn't have talking about the plot a lot. And actually, I find the plots of Leighton games really boring.
Yeah.
I don't really care for them. I think the animation is cute, but that's it. And I think that the stories themselves are actually a little bit bland. I just really want those to be just listed puzzles too. Basically, I just like the puzzles a lot more. And the interface is really, slick and charming, and the sound effects are really satisfying and stuff.
Yeah.
So it is kind of for me, they have not done this game was, Seventh Guest was highly inspired by a game called The Fool's Errand.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which I'll do a little plug for network member Will Hughes, who did a long Twitter kind of let's play. I don't know if it's on Twitter, but his pinned tweet. So you find at PlumberDuck on Twitter, and he'll hate that I'm driving people to him because he has this weird relationship with people liking his things, but it's good, so I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
He did a let's play of it, and it sounds really cool and interesting. It still does the same kind of lateral thinking stuff that I don't like.
Yeah, yeah.
But it does seem like it is a kind of a better, more coherent version of what these games do well.
Yeah. No, Fool's Errand, that's like a classic Mac thing. And like a new version of that kind of came out recently. Strangely recently. It's like a passion project by the dude Cliff Johnson. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was the Fool and His Money came out in 2012.
That's cool.
When the original came out in 1987. So
it is. I'm looking at Will's thread here, and it is a let's play done through a Twitter thread. Which is very cool. I've never seen that done before with screenshots, and it looks beautiful because it's an old Mac game.
Yeah.
So it's that monochrome, Shadowgate look to it. It just looks wonderful. So it's a really fun thread to read through, and I recommend people do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Sincerely, I know we said that the game was bad and parts of it were very unfun, but it was a fun episode, and I'm glad to have said I've experienced it, and very ready for Tetris.
Yes.
Which is next week.
Next week. Yeah. So Tetris, we're going to be talking about the game, and then, some of the more recent entries. There are at least 3 notable Tetris games that have come out in the past couple of years.
So kind of, you know, expect that to be kind of an odd episode as well, like heavy on generalities. Obviously, there's not really a story other than the story of how Tetris came. And we will, you know, as much as that's a Doki Doki story in gaming, like there probably are people who don't know it. So we will mention that because it is interesting.
Yeah.
The story of how that came to audiences. Yeah, it's going to be kind of just like a talk of like what you can do with the, like how the basics of Tetris work, why they work the way they do, and what you can do to upset that apple cart in interesting ways and different ways variations have done it.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a fun episode.
Yeah. That would normally be our premium episode, but it doesn't make sense with our approach. So we're doing a whole other episode that will be for our patrons about the adventures of Lolo.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to hear that episode, as well as, you know, the Banger Hitman episode we did last month, and a bunch of good premium episodes, BioShock Infinite, Resident Evil 2, Stalker, hit us up at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. It is $5 and it gets you that full episode. It gets you Bonfireside Chat. It gets you Unfilmable, our monthly show about Lovecraft adaptations. Yep. And at $10, you get even more. We try to give a lot back, and we really do appreciate people who support us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And other than that, ratings and reviews are useful.
If you have thoughts about these games, I don't know. Yeah, there'll be time as of when this comes out. Go to Duckfeed.tv/contact by the 15th. If you have thoughts about the puzzle games that we talked about, Into the Breach, 7th Guest, 11th Hour, or Tetris or Lolo. And then the deadline for July's games will be July the 15th for Platformer Month, Psychonauts, A Hat in Time, and Mirror's Edge.
Yes, specifically 3D Platformer Month.
Yes.
And a warm goodbye to theme months.
Yes.
As from now on, it's all chaos. And we just we appreciate you.
Yeah.
So other than that, you know what to do. And until next time, what should they watch out for, Cole?
Watch out for that soup.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah.
So
much
to watch
to
out
pull
for.
from, yeah.
Yeah, watch out for the soup.